Today on Homeworthy, we're dishing out a tour of the homes of renowned chefs and culinary stylists. Discover how these food visionaries design kitchens and living spaces that blend style with functionality, creating environments that are as warm and inviting as the dishes they craft. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Romy Newman and welcome to my New York City apartment.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi, my name is Romy Newman and we are at my apartment in Brooklyn Heights. So I got very lucky with this apartment. It's kind of like a jewel box. It's like a unicorn apartment. And basically the building it's in, the owner bought it in the 60s and he was a carpenter. And so he did all this woodwork behind me. And each unit there are only 4 units because it's a brownstone, but each unit has amazing woodwork. And I just feel lucky to live here because it feels like an actual home and there's a lot of history and it's not new and shiny, but that's what makes it fun and gives it character. And I love to collect old things. So I think it was a great find because all my things just work inside because everything's all over the place. My apartment's roughly 1,000 square feet. It's really one room, but it's one very large room. So I kind of broke it up into 3-4 segments. And I've lived here for 1.5 years. When I rented this apartment, I knew the best thing to do would be to take all the old furniture that my parents had in their basement and really plop it in as is and work around it. So I actually bought nothing new. I feel very lucky. My grandmother would kind of go around and source antiques from everywhere. And so I have all her pieces and they're very close to me because I grew up with them. And you can't look too closely because a lot of them have rips and stains, but I think it adds to the character. And yeah, I just think I kind of wanted to find an apartment that would work around the furniture I already had. And I just got very lucky because the furniture and the apartment are really in symbiosis. Welcome to my home. I guess the first thing to note is that you walk into quite literally the living room and the bedroom. And I wanted to have these 2 chairs kind of blocking off the living room so that there was like some illusion of a separation, but really it's just kind of, it's almost like a loft and I just kind of have to go with it. Try not to fight it. At first I was like, maybe I'll put a screen door there. And then I was like, no, look, let's just take it for what it is and enhance that. I think one of the best things I did here was finding this shelf because it added a whole new element of storage. Usually it's messier And there are hooks here that you can hang things on. But I also love the way it looks. It looks like it could be from the 60s, but it's from Hey, the design brand, and comes in all different colors. And it's very functional. And so that was a good find. And this actually is funny. This is a piece of art from my uncle when he was in art school. He is not an artist, but he did this whole series, and I have more in the other room, and I love them. And, you know, he thinks it's funny that I have them and I hang them up, but I think they're really beautiful and they also work well in the space. So this armoire is basically my biggest secret, because if I opened it up, which I'm not going to do, it is filled to the brim. It looks terrifying inside, and it has this underneath part where I can shove other stuff, but it's so beautiful, it looks intentional. And, you know, getting a huge, you know, I'm lucky to have really tall ceilings, but getting a huge piece like this that looks like it's just for show, but you can actually hide a ton of stuff in, is very helpful. And this was in my parents' room when I grew up. So I don't know, all these things make me reminisce. This is very special to me because this is a piece of art I bought from my childhood best friend. She, her name's Tria Atkins, and she is an incredible artist. And this is the first piece she ever auctioned. And it was a, you know, anonymous auction, and I bought it. And now she's going to be a huge deal. And I have not only my childhood friends' work in my home, but also it was a great investment. So the coffee table, I have books that were from my grandmother, that, you know, they're all art books, and they're truly just so beautiful. I don't think I've ever read any of them or even opened them up, especially this with this little parchment coating. I think they're really special, and they look like design pieces. And then this is probably one of my biggest inspirations. This is the Dolly cookbook, which kind of informs a lot of the food styling work I do, because it's so orchestrated and messy at the same time, and just kind of, it's transportive. And I think with my food, I try to create environments and dishes that make people feel like they're in a different place. And my mom bought me this tomato candle for Valentine's Day one year. And I love it because, first of all, the vessel, once I burn down the candle, I can keep. But it actually smells delicious, and I was really hesitant at first, but I love it. This is the first thing I ever bought from Curio Shop, and it is a match striker with these lion's heads. And this is the piece that formed the friendship. And this is the piece that also started my addiction with buying items from her shop. And I love it so much. It's so little, but it makes such a big impact. And I always kind of put it in the most important place in my apartment to kind of show it off. And people talk about it. This bowl, I once was upstate with my family, and they were driving me insane. So I decided to take the car and just drive. And of course, I ended up at an antique shop in Connecticut, and I found this bowl, and I fell in love with it. And it's my pistachio bowl. And actually, currently, it's broken, but I will figure out a way to fix it. But I love the pink marble, and it also reminds me that you can kind of make something beautiful out of a moment of despair. So it has a meaning as well. A great example of old furniture this is completely ruined, and one day I will get it recovered. But you know, it's been this fabric my entire life, and now my dog likes to have her little tantrums on here. But once again, it doesn't really bother me. And just I hope when people come over, they don't look too closely. When I was 13, I got cast to be on the first iteration of Teen and Chopped. So it was actually an adult Chopped episode, but they did like teenage takeover. And that was crazy for me because my brother and I would watch Chopped all the time, and we'd pause it every time they got the basket and like figure out what we would make with it. And it caused me so much anxiety. This game was kind of the bane of my existence, but I was addicted to it. And so when they asked me, I thought, holy, like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through an entire episode. Luckily, I did not make it through an entire episode. I got chopped in the first round for overcooking my salmon, which I now say with pride, but did hurt a lot at the time. But it was an amazing experience, and I would love to go back. Pretty much the thing that first sold me on the apartment were these bookshelves that the owner's father built, and they're beautiful pine. And it's so funny because like the number one question I get asked is like, where did you get your bookshelf? I need to find one like it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but you can't. But I'm very grateful for it, and it's perfect because I can kind of display all my weird little things, and it looks intentional. Doesn't look like I'm shoving stuff away. So for instance, these little stone bunnies were in my room when I was a baby, and they've traveled everywhere with me. I'm very sentimental, so I kind of bring things from all different stages of my life. This is a photo of my grandmother, who basically bought all this furniture, and I kind of like to honor her in that way. And if we go over here, I have these 2 plates that were made for the Coalition for the Homeless, and they're 2 of my favorite artists. This is Marilyn Minter, and this is Lorna Simpson. And I just love them because it like kind of brings together the food and the design, even though I would never dare to eat on them. My brother bought me this book for Christmas a few years ago, and it's pretty much my prized possession because it's not only signed by Julia Child, but it is signed by her husband, Paul Child, which is kind of crazy. And I'm addicted to candles. This one is from Vampire's Wife, which is pretty much my like biggest inspiration in life because I'm very pale and I kind of have a vampire aesthetic, and Susie Cave is pretty much my biggest crush in the entire world. My brother, again, he's very good he also collects stuff. We're very similar in that sense. But growing up, we would always joke that we were the Royal Tenenbaums because we're all kind of very weird and eccentric, and we all started doing our passions at a very young age. So that's me and that's him. But unlike the movie, we do not end up together, which I think is an important clarification. Books, kind of from all stages. And then I love stab pots kind of more than anything. And my kitchen is quite small. And I was thinking these pots, the perfect color palette, and they're so gorgeous that I'm just going to display them on the bookshelf, which is probably really weird. But I think they look gorgeous, and it's like a piece of ceramic. It's kind of like a decor item. And then I just come in here if I want to use them. So this giant candle, which is, I can't even pick up. My friend Chris Hesney hired me to do my first ever food event, which kind of started this whole new phase of my career. So he had me do this huge holiday table. And I did it as a friend, but he paid me in this candle. And so not only is this candle stunning and something that I've always wanted but never thought to buy for myself, but it also kind of represents this new phase of my passion and career. My first job, I dropped out of college, and my first job was at Cherry Bomb, so I collect every issue. I'm very grateful for Cherry Bomb for kind of humbling me a little bit and teaching me how to work hard, because my teen chef days were a breeze compared to working in the actual food world. So I'm grateful for Carrie, I'm grateful for Cherry Bomb, and they're also so colorful and beautiful that I love to collect them. This is a photo of me in hopefully the least self-centered way. This is me when I was like 7, and I had the most confidence in the entire world. So whenever I'm self-conscious or feel bad about myself, I just remind myself that this is me, and I just have to kind of put on a good face and go through with things. So yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous photo. When I first moved in, my dad bought me an olive tree, kind of a symbolic, welcoming present, but also something that I knew would be visually beautiful. And of course, I can't keep plants alive, and I absolutely cannot keep a tree alive. So it died, but I thought the pot was nice, and I also kind of wanted to remember at least the sentiment behind it, so it's now become my blanket holder. So I try to reuse things, and some people are like, why do you have an empty flower pot? But I think it's pretty. It's like a little bit of ceramic. It's so funny because I always thought I was a minimalist, and I'm absolutely not. I like to be an organized maximalist, but truthfully, I love stuff. And I think I had to stop myself from buying any more things. I can't even sometimes I want to drive upstate and go antiquing, and I stop myself because I have nowhere to put it. And I know I'm at this kind of breaking point where if I buy anything else, it's gonna look cluttered. But I love layering. I love different colors. I love different textures. I love to make something kind of a whole experience rather than one note. I think I kind of like to balance this line of beauty and comfort. I care a lot about aesthetics. I'm a very aesthetically driven, environmentally focused person, but it needs to feel right. So it's not just about the look, it's about the way it feels, it's about the way it smells, even the way it looks, all of it. It's just it has to be a full rounded experience. Immediately to the left of the front door is my bedroom, and it's lofted. Once again, the owner's dad built this entire thing. And when I first moved in, I was like, I don't know what the hell to do with this loft, because I don't trust myself to sleep on a loft. I know that if I tried to go down and get a glass of water or go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I would have a fatal injury. So I decided to put a mattress up there. It never really gets used, but I like to at least pretend it does. It's pretty much for show. But I actually love sleeping under here because it has these low ceilings that are a darker wood, and it feels very cozy, and it makes it kind of feel like it's its own room because it's a different scale and dimension than the other rooms. And this bed, once again, very old. Part of it was chewed off by my childhood dog. Once again, embracing these imperfections, and these side tables were also from my grandmother's basement. I like them because they're a little bit of a different style from everything else. And the beautiful piece of art above my bed is made by Lorna Simpson, who is, as I said, one of my favorite artists, but also one of my best friend's moms. And she very generously gave that to me, and I hold on to it with everything I have. And I've moved across seas with it. It goes in my carry-on bag. If I'm going anywhere, she's coming with me. This was my first foray into candle sconces, candelabras. I found this on Etsy, and I was obsessed, and I sent it to my mom, and she said, "You're absolutely ridiculous." And I adore it. I knew I wasn't going to install actual bedside lamps, so this is my solution. But it's like a piece of jewelry. It just enhances the space. And I do have this great Herman Miller light that works perfectly. And I love how it contrasts the wood, but also it goes down and it goes up, and it's not obstructive at all, but it does add something. So when I was 11, I was a very, very precocious child. And I think everyone was a little worried about where I was going to end up because I just had so much personality and so many opinions for such a little body. And I think I always wanted to be forward presenting. I always wanted to tell people about things and, make things for people and interact with people. And I'm very lucky because what felt like torture when I was young was actually kind of my saving grace, which was that my mom wouldn't let me watch the Disney Channel, and the Disney Channel and the Food Network were one channel away on Time Warner Cable. So I would watch the Food Network as a front, and then when she would leave the room, I'd switch back to the Disney Channel. But quickly, I became so obsessed with the Food Network that it it took over my entire life. And I would start printing out recipes from my favorite chefs on the network and have my mom take me to the grocery store after school. And it was just kind of this thing where once I fell into it, it consumed my entire life in a very positive way. And I think it was also great because it gave me a creative outlet. I always felt very creative, but I wasn't good at art. I wasn't good at, typical things. So it gave me to kind of express myself. And also I'm super ADHD, I'm super all over the place. And when I get in the kitchen, I just have kind of hyper focus and I feel very at home and comfortable and at peace. And so once that all clicked, I was like, I'm gonna make a food blog, I'm gonna start making YouTube videos, and I just kind of went for it. And I feel lucky that I started when I did, because it was a rarity for kids to be cooking, and especially for kids to be posting about cooking. It wasn't cool. I remember lying to my friends about what TV shows I watched, because I was really embarrassed that I watched the Food Network, because I thought it was something that like moms and grandmothers did. I didn't think it was cool. But once I started to kind of create an actual brand for myself and turn it into a profession, I was like screaming from the rooftops that I was a chef. Okay, let me bring you to the dining room now, which is room number 2 of this apartment. Luckily, it has these doors, so if I have company over, I do like to close them so people don't look at my bed while they eat. I'm probably the only person who would have turned this into an actual formal dining room, because it would be pretty much not at the top of anyone else's list. But I knew I didn't want it to be a TV room, and it's quite grand, so it actually does work perfectly for dinner parties. I have this old table that really isn't functional at all. It's oval shaped, and it can really only fit 4 people, 5 at most. But I love it. And I kind of like the fact that there's this like little decorative table in the middle of the room that's not over the top. And I like to set it, I'm always ready for company. It's set currently with beautiful pieces that I've sourced from Curio Shop. These plates, we once did an amazing food styling shoot on. I love it because I have memories with these things as well. I love this because it's new. It's from Tiffany, and their new homeware line is great because it all looks old and it looks hand painted, and you would never know it's new. But it's good if you want kind of a feeling of the past. I always have flowers. I'm obsessed with flowers. It's flowers and candles. It's probably where all my money goes. But it transforms the space, and especially one like this, which is very much all the same color tone, and it's a very distinct palette. Flowers can kind of create an entirely different mood, and then, they only last a week or 2, and then you go in a different direction. So I like that. This is very special. This is an 1800s wedding box. It has the original key. It was likely made for a bride to kind of store her little garments and linens. And I just think it's so absurdly beautiful. And it needed its own moment. It has this little vignette, the candlesticks as well. For my 25th birthday, my mom bought me 25 boxes of Cire Trudon candles, which was the perfect gift, and it shows you how well she knows me. And also, dark green is my favorite color, but I have an unlimited supply of candles, which is very, very useful, and I'm actually getting through them pretty quickly. This rug is a Moroccan rug. It's made by Benny Rugs, but they produce all their rugs in Morocco, and I like it because it's a different style. It's a little funkier. It's not old, it's new, and it adds a little bit of color. Just a little bit. When I moved in, I got really, really excited because I found out this was a fireplace. And I was like, that's the coolest looking fireplace I've ever seen. And oh my God, I can have roaring fires while we eat, and I can cook over it. It does not work. But in New York City, you have to pretend. So I have this big basket of firewood. And I like to give the illusion that I have fires when no one's here. But I absolutely do not. And I would burn down the place if I did. Here are more of my uncle's pieces. I don't know. I feel like they look like they're made to be here. And again, I really love them. And this is another one of these hay shelves that I just adore. And here is a more modern candelabra, but still, you know, in keeping with the whole candlelit feel. This was my grandfather's desk that he worked on. And I think it's probably the most beautiful piece of furniture I own. I adore it. It has a secret drawer here. The wood is just like so textured and has all these different dents and like holes, and I just love it. And when I miss my grandfather, it's nice to sit here and feel connected to him. This is another candelabra situation from Curio Shop, which was actually used as a light for games in France, and I would say the 1800s. But, you put two candles in here, but because of these shades, the light really projects, and it's pretty special. This is a portrait of my mom when she was maybe 4 years old. And a lot of people come in here and tell me it's creepy and I should grow up and get rid of it, but I love it. My mom and I look very similar. We're best friends. And I just think it's really sweet, but I also think it's beautiful. So it kind of checks all the boxes for me. So I will not be taking it down, no matter what anyone tells me to do. And here I have my little makeshift bar. This makes it look like I drink a lot. I don't drink all of this all the time, but I love to kind of display the bottles. And this actually is a movie poster from one of the films my dad did that was designed by Andy Warhol, which is very cool. And I love the way it looks. And also I like that it's a little bit more modern and kind of contrasts everything else. I hate when you go to people's homes and there's no sign of personality. I like tons of books and I like photos and I like, kind of half-used, half-burnt candles and things that make it feel like someone lived there. I don't think there's anything aspirational about going into a home that feels like it's a showroom. I would say I host less than I would like to, only because my kitchen is small and it actually is kind of logistically difficult to make a feast in there. So I have intimate dinner parties, or I'll have little kind of soirees with, cheese and bread and wine. But moving forward, I do think eventually I will get a long table and just commit to the bit and have full-on extravagant dinner parties, because I feel like that's what I'm good for, and that's probably why my friends are friends with me, and I don't think I'm kind of tapping into that potential yet. And this is a really cool piece. I love it because it's kind of a very old school style vase, but it's actually made from wax. And it's made by Diptyque, which a lot of people don't realize actually makes beautiful homeware. But yeah, it's kind of a coated black wax, and it has a little, let's see, let me just hit my head with the flowers. Always graceful. But it has this little emblem here. I just think it's really special, and I've never seen anyone have it before. So I have this bar with spirits, and then I have this bar which has all the glassware, and it has jiggers and shakers and flasks and pitchers. It's really kind of stocked. The funny thing is I'm terrible at making cocktails, and everyone assumes I'm great, and I don't really have the heart to tell them I'm not. So I kind of try to figure out ways around it, or I'll make I can make a margarita well. But people are expecting rose petal infused gin with, beautiful cordials and fizz, and it's not happening. But I do love barware, and I think all these glasses are really beautiful. And I'm assuming that this was intended to be another bookshelf, But the second I saw it, I was like, this is a glassware shrine. This is a citrus juicer that I found in the Paris flea market, and I love it because it's a piece of art, and it's funny because it's such a functional item, which honestly I never use because I find it so pretty. But I like it here because, you know, in my imaginary world, I'm making cocktails with all kinds of citrus. This is a flask that I found in Scotland. Once again, have never used it, but it's leather and silver. And the idea is that you take this and you use this as a cup. So I just like these kind of odd special pieces. And these are more of the Tiffany painted glasses, which I truly think are just so beautiful. And it's the kind of thing I look for in an antique shop and don't always find. So I think it's kind of special that those are readily accessible. And these are two little, I suppose, gravy boats. They're very small, but they were from my mom's grandmother. And they're a little janky, but they are so special. And I never met her grandmother, but I have those pieces and it makes me feel connected to her. I would say the irony of all of this is I am so passionate about entertaining, and I love setting the table and doing florals and kind of creating a whole environment that people can step into and feel transported. But I really, truly make the best food ever when I'm all alone and it's 9 p.m. and I just kind of like scrounge through the fridge and find a bunch of random ingredients. I do get a little scared when I cook for friends because I try to think, oh, but would they like that flavor combination? And oh, you know, do they like this herb? And I think I need to get out of my head more because, first of all, if you just cook with the things that you are attracted to, a lot of times people will find it delicious if they don't know what's in it. So I sneak anchovies into everything I make, and all my friends claim to despise anchovies, but they're like, this is so salty and umami and delicious. And I'm like, but you know, I think it really, once again, depends on my mood. You know, sometimes I'll do a big risotto with, you know, like a very simple salad, and that's dinner with some crusty bread and some gooey French cheese. And then other times I do a much more intricate dinner where it's like, okay, we have a soup course, and then we have a meat course, and then there's all these sides, and there's a gratin, and there's a tarte tatin. So I think I kind of try to feel out what my guests are in the mood for and adapt to that. Let me take you to the room in the house. It's really just a wall, but it's where all the magic happens, and it's my kitchen. I feel very lucky that I have this height in a kitchen this size. Obviously for New York, it's exceptional, but it also lets me kind of collect cookware and cookbooks. As you can see, I'm a bit of a hoarder of cookbooks. These aren't even close to all of them, but I love having them here because sometimes when I'm a little stuck for inspiration, I just kind of flip through them. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll go through a few cookbooks, and then all of a sudden I have this new zest for life and zest for cooking. And also I love all the different covers and the, you know, the book binds, and I don't know, it's what I'm really, that's where I geek out the most, is cookbooks. Here I have my pots and pans collection. They kind of come from all over again. Like these were both my grandmother's copper pans. This is actually a fish pan that Eric Repair gave me very recently, which is such an honor that I feel like I'm never going to use it because I'm scared that I won't do it justice. And more my favorite burgundy staub. This is a gratin dish, and this as well. I would say pretty much this copper saute pan I make every single thing in. If I was moving into a new apartment and it wasn't me, meaning a cookware hoarder, I would say you buy one of these and one stock pot, and that's all you need. And this pan, it's like one of those things where it has the biggest return on investment. This is so old and it's still in great condition. I love the patina. Some people are like, why don't you polish them? And I'm like, no, because this shows like a lot of good things were cooked in here. But the way it sears, the way food interacts with it, it just makes everything the best it can be. And it's really all you need, and it happens to be pretty to show off. So if you have a small kitchen like mine, you can leave it on the stove, and it's a bragging part. I have kind of an old chopping block collection, which I also love because I use it for food styling. I actually serve things on there, and I think it's great. This is an old silver tray from a hotel in France that I picked up in Hudson, and I think it's like, if I really want to make a show-stopping presentation, I put something on there and it automatically looks very fancy and very, very, very indulgent. I always have a bowl of produce that I try my hardest to get through. And here it's a little more fall pumpkin vibes, but usually it's like asparagus and artichokes and persimmon. It's like, it's always overflowing. It doesn't always look as contained as this. This happens to be my favorite of my stab pots. Obviously there's the rooster, which is amazing. But I like the green, and I really like the oval. It's nice for braising. It's beautiful. The thing I love most about these pots is that you can serve them on the table. You don't need to transfer it to a dish. This is a statement piece itself. My janky oven is actually great. I love it. It's also great for recipe development because it's pretty accurate. It takes its time to heat up. It's old. And this is actually a little broiler drawer, which I think is like actually the biggest luxury I have, is this like separate broiler drawer. I put most everything in there at the end of cooking to give it that beautiful brown color and a little bit of char. I would say pretty much all of my inspiration comes from the past, whether it's my family or it's, the wonders of the Victorian age or, the French Renaissance. I think all of these different time periods really inspire how I move forward now. But I like to take these things and take, these styles and these dishes and make them modern just by kind of toning them back and adding some freshness. I'll find a recipe for a roast, and then I'm like, this needs acid, this needs herbs, this needs brightness. But I think, there's so much beauty in the way that people used to do things because they cared so much. It wasn't about, a 15-minute rice bowl. It was about really kind of devoting a whole day to making something very special. And I know that's maybe not the most practical thing, but to me, cooking food slowly and, preparing your home over the course of a few days, that's the biggest luxury, because that's what really makes people feel special. So here I have my servingware collection. Obviously, what you put your food on is almost as important as the food itself, because, from back when I first started food styling, I would kind of pour my heart and soul into a dish, and then it would be kind of plated on like a oval, white, shiny plate, and it looked bad no matter what. So I like to collect kind of different types of things. These plates are from a shop called LES Collection, and I adore the ruffle molding. And I actually I wouldn't think that I would love a black plate, but I love how it's just kind of intentionally messy. So I love these. And then I have the dinner plate version, which are just all white. I like things that are imperfect and that have character. These falconware enamel plates I think are so chic. and they're so utilitarian. You can't break them. They can withstand all types of heat, but I think they actually look very chic, and they kind of transport you to the French countryside, even though it's a UK brand. And then below these, I have this collection of plates that are actually antique Tiffany's. And it was from this collection where each plate is a different spice. So this is the vanilla plate. This is the cinnamon plate. It goes on, but I love that they're kind of informative, but also so beautiful. And obviously when you think of cinnamon, you don't think of this image, but it's kind of great. And it actually says cinnamon laurus cinnamonium, and this is vanilla aromatica. So excuse my pronunciation, but these are special and definitely prized. I don't use them as much, I guess because I'm scared to, but I should more. And these little plates are from my mom's stepfather, and I think they're so beautiful. Just the color, the kind of like this subtle cracking in them, obviously the border, they're just really lovely, and they are from Stratfordshire, England. I don't use them that much again because I'm scared, but it kind of goes against my entire ethos because I'm all about using things no matter how beautiful or precious they are, because life is meant to be lived and food is meant to be enjoyed, and if you have something like this, you should use it. I love the fact that my home is full of stories. I love the fact that this actual space is a product of a family and, a father who built everything by hand. I love the fact that my landlord, who owns the building, is so passionate about everything here. It feels very lucky, especially in New York City, to have a place that has so much history and it hasn't been touched. But in terms of my additions, God, I love all my knickknacks. I love all my stuff. I just get really excited about finding weird things that probably people don't think to have in their home. I mean, I love a candelabra. I have candle sconces. At night, I pretty much light everything by candlelight, which is a huge fire hazard, but it makes me feel very nice. And so weird things like that, I think, make me feel like I live in a special place. This is where I keep all my spices and flowers and pastas and all types of things. My friend went to Switzerland and brought me back a fondue kit, so that's really kind of something that keeps me going. And there's even more storage here. And I love it because no one realizes it has stuff in it. People think it's a shutter. But I just load it up. One thing you'll note is that the top shelf has nothing on it, and that's because I'm 5'1". And even when I stand up on the counter, which is indeed how I get everything down, and I kind of almost fall and break my neck every time. But that one shelf, even on my tiptoes on the counter, I can't reach, and that's okay. And obviously, one thing, see, look, this is the challenge, and I'm wearing high heels. Okay. My Malden salt bucket is my favorite accessory. I would carry it down the street as a handbag if I could. And I can, maybe I should. But I love this because I put Malden salt on everything. I probably use it a little bit too liberally. And this is great because it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's just a giant tub of salt. But also, I'm very proud to show it off because Malden is a point of pride for me. The word home to me is actually kind of the driving force of everything I do. I think when I was my grandmother passed away when I was very young, but going to her home growing up, it was the one place where I felt all these big feelings at once, but I also felt so at peace and so comforted. And that's what really inspired me to go into this field, whether it be cooking or design or entertaining. I think, they all interact with each other. And I think what makes a home is really, the people in it, what you do with it, creating a space that really feels like a representation of you. I know my grandmother's home was so special to her, and her style still to this day. I mean, she was so ahead of her time, but also she did things that no one else did. And I would go there and then I would eat food that I had never tried, and I would, watch movies with my brothers on the sofa. It was all of these different memories that came together. So it was beautiful, but it also was really warm and inviting.
Today we're taking you to Austin, Texas, where our hosts Leanne Valenti and Charlie Rice show us how to entertain in their 700 square foot bungalow. Charlie gives us a quick tour of their home before 6 of their closest friends arrive for a Japanese-style dinner party.
It's the first house I bought, and it was really rough shape. It was tear-down shape. And the first thing I did was come in with my dad, and we just started tearing down walls and drywall. And it was really a blank canvas, but I knew I wanted to make it a great place to host 10 people, be able to really comfortably host a dinner party, and have a lot of seating in the living room.
Meanwhile, Leanne walks us through their menu for the evening, from preparing the most delicious dishes.
I personally love kale. A lot of people think it's too healthy tasting, but one of my favorite ways to prepare it is to grill it so that it really breaks down the fibers and gives it a nice smokiness.
To curating the perfect sake sampling.
We have a handful of different sake for our friend to try tonight. I love offering sake with a dinner because, unlike wine, it's low or no acidity and 0 tannin, and so it really doesn't require as precise of pairings, and sakes go really well with a wide variety of food.
So come along with us as Leanne and Charlie pull off a bento-style feast in less than 4 hours. You won't want to miss this.
I got carried away telling that story, and we only have an hour left, so I'm gonna have Charlie come and help me cut these persimmons for the salad, and then I'll show you how we do the miso soup and the kale and the salmon. Charlie, if you don't mind. Welcome, Homeworthy. I'm Leanne Valenti.
And I'm Charlie Rice.
And this is our little Austin bungalow. We're actually about to host a dinner party, so we're excited to have you here.
And there's loads to do and no time to waste, so come on in and let's get started.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
All right, we're expecting 6 of our closest friends here in just a couple hours, and I prepared tonight's menu. It's a Japanese home-style menu, and I sourced a bunch of beautiful produce from the farmer's market, and I'm excited to take you step by step through how to make a bento-style meal.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to give you a little tour of our home. It's only 768 square feet, but it's designed perfectly to host our closest friends and dinner parties. Well, here we are in the living room. This is the first house I bought, and it was really rough shape. It was tear-down shape. And the first thing I did was come in with my dad, and we just started tearing down walls and drywall. And it was really a blank canvas, but I knew I wanted to make it a great place to host 10 people, be able to really comfortably host a dinner party, and have a lot of seating in the living room. And one of the first things I did after hiring Avery Cox, my designer, was we went to Round Top and just started shopping around and found some really great antiques. We found these 2 safari chairs. They're French and from the 1890s. This funny little bench here with little secret compartments. And then we found those side tables, and then the real piece of the resistance was this back bar that's also from the 1890s, and we just knew that would be a really great focal point. And be able to sneak in a lot of storage. We've got a lot of our serverware in there, records, cookbooks, and it's our bar, and it's really kind of evolved over time. I mean, we added these lights into it, we changed out the wooden shelves for glass shelves. It's just a really great focal point. So this was actually one of the first things I'd picked out in my mind. It's a design by R.W. Guild out of New York. And in my last apartment, I just like really wanted it, but I couldn't justify buying it for like such a temporary space. The artwork's in Matteo Perrotta, which was, I feel like the art was actually the hardest thing for me to find. It just took a lot of, we worked with a art consultant and just went through, I mean, hundreds of options. Just like, I did a lot of photoshopping to try to see how they would look. And this is very different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to go with like a very blue and green colors, and I love that it ended up like kind of this side of the house is all just like these warm red and oranges with little accents of green and blue. And then if you go into the kitchen, it's all like cool blues and greens with little accents of red. So the thing I really got in my head around the size was wanting kind of small furniture. I wanted a big sofa and then kind of modular, small pieces. And I feel like I was really fortunate. So my next door neighbor is he's become a very dear friend of us, and he's a really great designer. His name is Mark Ashby. And I feel like just like kind of because the design process took more years than I thought it would be, like I really had a chance to get to know them, and they all have like super wild design, like lots of colors, bold patterns. And I'd say when I started, it was like I was much more muted and just kind of hanging out with them, getting encouragement from them. They really pushed my boundaries, and I'm so glad I did. Like every decision they made that I kind of felt trepidation on, like has worked out so well and made the house just a beautiful piece. I was an engineer. I was a software developer for an oil and gas company. Not in my wheelhouse, but I grew up in a 1920s house in Corpus Christi. My mom had done it in Art Deco style, so it was all kinds of crazy colors: peaches, light greens, light blues, yellows, pinks. So yeah, a white house was never really an option for me. So we like to set out stuff out here on the coffee table, so it's a really easy transition after dinner to kind of get people over into the living room. So we have a couple things of chocolate, some dried fruit, and we'll set out some apples, and then we'll serve it with tea. And it's nice to have a reason for everybody to come into the living room. It's a little more comfortable than just hanging out, chatting around the dinner table. So when I bought the house, the living area was all cut up into smaller rooms, and one of the biggest areas that I really had a say in the design was how the layout was going to be. And knew I wanted to be an open floor plan. I knew that would make the space feel bigger and make it easier to host friends. And so directly across from the living room is the dining room, which is, I mean, the whole concept of my design was to be able to very comfortably host 10 people. I wanted 10 seats around the dining table, at least 10 chairs in the living room. And then we got these super fun pieces off First Dibs and Urban Electric lighting. So even before I met Leanne, like I loved cooking, so I had a really strong sense of how I wanted the layout to be. One of my best friends, we like cooked and hosted dinner parties all the time. And so I knew that we needed to have plenty of workspace for us. So in my last apartment, it was really small and a lot of open cabinetry, and I was just really tired of looking at all my dishes, all my cookware. So it was really important to me to have everything kind of tucked away so I don't have to see it all the time. And then because it's such a small space and I have so much stuff in the kitchen, so it's really important to have everything tucked away. Lots of clever storage. We have our spice rack here, just all our spices. And then this was one that my cabinet designers really fought me and told me that it wasn't possible. But we have this pot rack that actually pulls out and just stores a ton of things. And they had to cut kind of the trim at the top because it's just really tight. And then of course we got the panel ready fridge. And then this stove is a Chambers. It's from the 1940s. And I actually grew up with one of these in my house in Corpus. And then my sister bought one about 5 years ago. And it's just got these really great features. It has a broiler that I think Leanne's going to use later, and a little fry well in the back. It's just like a super cool piece. They're built to last. They're never gonna break down. Really wanted a big island with lots of space to prep and then people to sit. I ended up cooking a lot when people are over, so it's nice to have a place where they can sit to watch. And then we also found these bar stools at Round Top, but they're so fun because they tuck away when they're not in use, and they just add such a nice little pop of color. And then this is the bathroom. And I love having the double shower, just gives you lots of space. The way I worked with Avery was really, I would find these like pieces and just be like, we need to make this work. And so this was, it's from the 1930s, it's from the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and they took it out. I found it salvaged online, and it was one of those pieces where I was just like, I bought this, let's make this work, and then we kind of designed the rest of the bathroom around it. As you can see, right behind me is the bedroom. Let's go take a look at that while Leanne finishes her prep. This is an armoire from the 1970s. This was a wallpaper I actually had in my old apartment that I just loved. And so we added it back in, and then this was a little art piece that I got in San Francisco while just like wandering the streets, this little bison. Yeah, and I guess with that, let's go see what Leanne's up to in the kitchen.
To prepare for the dinner party, Leanne and Charlie did their grocery shopping earlier in the week.
Okay, we're here at the downtown farmers market, and we're gonna go see what produce we can find and pick up some flowers as well. All right, so I was able to get some of these beautiful fuyu persimmons from the farmer's market. We were just in Japan, and the persimmon trees were loaded with fruit. And what I love in Japan, you see persimmon used a lot in savory applications, not just desserts and pastries like here. And so I'm super excited to recreate this salad for my friends. It's persimmon shirae, and I'll include the recipe in the show notes, but it's a creamy dressing that doesn't include any dairy on these gorgeous persimmons. That these are actually the firm persimmons that you can slice and eat. And then I was also able to get these gorgeous mushrooms from the farmer's market, so chestnut and pioppino from Hi-Fi Mycology. We're gonna broil these and use them in a miso soup along with the green onion. And then this kale, beautiful kale. I personally love kale. A lot of people think it's too healthy tasting, but one of my favorite ways to prepare it is to grill it so that it really breaks down the fibers and gives it a nice smokiness. And we're gonna use this kale grilled as part of a warm salad with carrot and parsnip tempura, which is a Japanese stir fry. The carrots and the parsnips I just cut into thin matchsticks and am doing a nice saute with some just sake, salt, sugar, and water. And this recipe I'll make sure to include in the show notes because it is a must-have for Japanese home-style cooking. It's one of those recipes that you can make ahead of time and let come to room temperature, and it's even better. So that's what we have going here. And then in this double-lidded donabe, I've started the rice. So it's a simple Japanese white rice. We're gonna use this as the base with salmon, the warm kale salad with tempura, miso soup, and the persimmon salad. And that's gonna be our complete menu for tonight. So I'm gonna take you step by step. The next thing is preparing the mushrooms in this broiler for the miso soup. All right, so to prep these mushrooms, we're gonna just pile them over here onto this sheet tray. I'm actually just gonna drizzle them with a little oil, season simply with salt, and broil them. And then I'll show you how simple it is to make this miso soup. I know that one of my friends, especially Jenny, this is for you, thinks that miso soup sounds intimidating. It's not, it's so simple, and I can't wait to show you just how simple it is. A lot of Americans, my friend Jenny included, feels like cooking Japanese food at home is pretty intimidating. And, you know, I think that rightfully so, there's quite a few components that come into it, and the ingredients can be unfamiliar. And so it's maybe a little bit interesting, you might say, that a Texan like me is making a Japanese home-style dinner for her friends here in Austin. But I came about loving Japanese home-style food in a really kind of happenstance way when a good friend of mine and I started volunteering at a vegetable farm here in Austin. This is in my early 20s. It just so happened that we were getting paid in vegetables. My friend, is having grown up in the countryside of Japan, would invite me over to her apartment after we got finished working on the farm, and we would cook up all the vegetables for the week. And bit by bit, week by week, I was introduced to one recipe after another, one amazing way to use vegetables that I'd never thought of. And that was how I got my first curious glimpse into Japanese cooking. And I have then pursued a culinary degree at the Natural Epicurean, which is a health-focused culinary school focused in more Eastern traditions, as well as my friend Naoko encouraged me to go actually live in Japan. So at that point, I was about 26 years old, and I lived in the countryside of Japan with her family, and had one of the most formative experiences of my life. And it's pretty much set my trajectory, my professional trajectory, of having started here in Austin a restaurant and catering called Bento Picnic, where I focus in home-style Japanese cooking. And at the moment, I'm taking a little sabbatical, so I don't have the shop open for you to come and eat right this second, but I do have a cookbook proposal in the works for you, as well as a blog that I'm updating with recipes, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you soon. All right, so we're gonna set this for 10 minutes. The mushrooms in the broiler should be perfect right after that. We're just gonna ladle it with the hot broth, and that will be perfect. I got carried away telling that story, and we only have an hour left, so I'm gonna have Charlie come and help me cut these persimmons for the salad, and then I'll show you how we do the miso soup and the kale and the salmon. Charlie, if you don't mind. Well, if you know Austin, you know Barton Springs. It was a Wednesday after work about 2 years ago, and we had both gone to just cool off, and we were introduced by a mutual friend. So in the age of online dating, miraculously, we met totally organically. I'm just cutting these onions on a bias so that they're ready to go into the miso soup as soon as those mushrooms come out, so that we can just set and forget the miso soup. Already you can see that this carrot parsnip tempura, I'm gonna cut the heat on it. It is literally perfect. And then I also cut the heat on the rice, and I'm just gonna leave that double-lidded donabe to set so that none of the heat escapes, and it'll also be the perfect temperature for when we turn our attention to plating. Okay, so we went ahead and moved the tempura and the rice to the back burner for now, since those are both completely done. And we're gonna turn our attention to getting the broth ready for the miso soup. I already sliced up the onions for it, and we're just gonna get those portioned into each of our little soup cups here. And then the mushrooms should be done at any moment. Charlie is a whiz at getting things ready back here. He already finished the persimmons, so I'm gonna have him help me portion out the mushrooms into the soup cups while I finish the broth. So the broth is here. I'll show you, it's already in this adorable donabe, polka dot donabe that we just got and we're obsessed with. The broth is simmering here. This is actually for our friends who are vegetarian. This is going to be the broth that we share with them. So this is a shiitake and kombu based broth. You'll notice we have 3 friends who are vegetarians, so we pulled 3 of these little black soup cups, so that when time comes to share the finished product with our friends, we know which ones are the bonito and which ones are the vegetarian. Just a little tool of the trade. I worked for years in the service industry, so I'm always kind of trying to think ahead and just really honestly figure out how to make things as easy on myself as I can. Even if I'm working, I like to have a good time. So I don't want to put myself into a position where I'm going to be overly stressed. And so this is a really good example. It's an hour before my friends are here, and what I'm doing is just getting the broth ready so that when they come, all I have to do is ladle it right over the green onion and mushrooms that are prepped in the cups, and I'll be able to serve them a perfect cup of miso soup. So this is something that I wanted to show you, because miso, if you just try to mix it in directly into the pot, is gonna be all globby. And so what you wanna do is put a little bit of miso in your ladle and then make sort of a bit of a dilution so that by the time that it comes into the broth, it's already beautifully incorporated and you're not gonna get any lumps in that miso soup. Julia Child says, never apologize for your food, and I would agree. Cooking is really something that is an art in and of itself, and there's so many factors, you never know quite which way it's going to go. It's really important ultimately at the end of the day that you're present and you're able to enjoy what it is that you've created. Whether it's exactly what you had in mind or not, the fact is that this is what's in front of you, and your friends are there to join you, and so to just really be able to take a step back, have a deep breath, and enjoy. What I want to do next is bring you guys to show you the grilled kale and the seared salmon. I'm going to just set this back over here. Again, all of my burners are off. And so that's where I want them, because by the time I come back in, everything will be at that perfect temperature and I can just go ahead and start plating. Charlie is gonna portion the mushrooms into the cup bowls while we go outside to do the grilling of the kale and searing of the salmon. So if you wanna come with me. I'm getting situated over here at my grill station. This is where, in the cast iron, I'm gonna sear the crispy skinned salmon, and then I'm gonna also get a nice char on the kale. So part of living in a small house is that Charlie really had the foresight is to kind of expand the kitchen space so that we're also able to make use of this beautiful gas grill and countertop. And so for this kale, which I'm gonna get started with first, you can see I left the stems on. This is literally one of the easiest ways to prepare kale. And I'm just gonna lay it out over my preheated grill so that it just turns into this nice bright green and has some nice charred bits. And it doesn't take very long at all. So part of Japanese menu design is having 5 colors, 5 tastes, and 5 cooking techniques. So you can see that, you're gonna see that in tonight's menu for sure. We have the bright green of the kale. This salmon that I prepped by marinating with just some sake and salt is done on a cross section and portioned out already so that it's gonna be just super presentable. And also, honestly, just super easy to manage and cook without having it fall apart on you. All right, so this batch of kale is done. What did I tell you? It goes so fast. I'm just gonna move it over to my clean sheet tray here and then do my next batch. As I mentioned before, you know, kale gets a bad rap, but when you prepare something well and really treat it in a way that honors what's going on with it, in this case, long, fibrous strands, it can be something that's just so enjoyable and so surprising. And that's one of the things that I love to do with my cooking, is surprise people, of saying like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that I liked kale, or I didn't think I liked tomatoes, but you did it. You won me over. And so that's really one of my goals in especially preparing these vegetables that I love, is to win people over. Awesome, this is perfect. You can see it's still bright green in places, but it's also got a nice char. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be so good. Okay, and now we're gonna turn our attention to the salmon. You can see the oil is glistening, so it should be simmering. I have this small piece that I'm gonna see if it sizzles, it's ready. So we're gonna put it skin side down so that we get a nice sear on the skin first. And you can see I pulled it out of the marinade before bringing it over to the grill, and I dried it off really well, because what we're trying to do is get crispness, and if there's any moisture there at all, it's just going to kind of simmer instead of fry, and what we want is a good sear. Okay, so why are we doing this outside on the grill in a pan when we could be doing it inside? A couple of reasons. One, it's a really nice day outside, and I already shared with you that I want to make things as fun and enjoyable for myself as I can, so that's one of the big reasons. Another reason is it makes the cleanup a lot easier. So basically it's to say you have some oil splattering outside on the grill, not a big deal. Inside, gonna take more to get that cleaned up. But by all means, if you do not have an outdoor grill setup like this, you can absolutely, make some crispy skinned salmon perfectly over your indoor range, as well as, honestly, you could sear the kale in a cast iron pan as well, and that's going to be just as good. In fact, I've done that many a times myself. So as we get a nice golden sear on the skin, I'm just turning it around so that it gets some char on the pink sides too. And you can see that because it's been cut into these portion sizes already, and it also has the cure from the marinade, it's holding together beautifully. This is not a tricky dish to execute on. It really wants you to cook it. It really just is offering itself up to you at this point. This is actually a very traditional Japanese way of preparing salmon. What's funny, you may not believe me, is that this is often you see part of a Japanese breakfast. And so while, it may seem like too early for a fillet of fish for a lot of Americans, this is something that you would oftentimes in the nicest hotels find on a breakfast buffet. And so that was how I was first introduced to it. I love it any time of day, and I know most of my friends would prefer to have it in the evening rather than the morning, so we're making it for dinner. The salmon really is going to depend on the heat of your range, how quickly. So this heat on the outdoor range is a little more diffused, and so it's going to take closer to 10 minutes to get a nice char on all the sides. But on the indoor range, it is quite a bit more intense, the heat, and so that takes less than 5 minutes. But really, you're going by, you can see if you come close, you're wanting to see some nice char and the crispy skin. And as soon as you see that, the pieces are cut so small that really you don't need to worry about doneness through the middle. It's gonna be perfectly cooked all the way through. So when you're buying salmon, there's a couple things that you want to look for. You want to look for the integrity of the flesh. Sometimes when that fillet is made, it can be handled a little rough, and when they're pulling the pin bones out, it can be really pulled apart. And that kind of will inhibit your ability to make this as nice of a presentation. So integrity of the flesh. Also, to get this crispy skin, first of all, you want to make sure that the skin doesn't have scales on it. And it is way easier to go ahead and ask them to do that for you at the grocery store, to go ahead and scale the skin, than it is to do at home. Most home cooks don't have the tool for scaling the salmon. And so those are two things to look out for: the integrity of the flesh, and to make sure that for skin on salmon, the scales are taken off. Okay, so this took all of 15 minutes at the most out here grilling the kale and searing the salmon. So now this is something that we can check off our list and head back inside to see how Charlie's doing setting the table. Sometimes things need a little feminine touch. How's it going in here, Charlie?
It's all about ready.
Ew, love it.
Yeah, so setting the table, we love to do that before guests arrive, just so we're not having to like kind of navigate and do that once they're here. And usually it's like we want to be able to focus on any last minute touches we need to do with the food. And we're not big on name tags. Our only rule is like we just don't let couples sit next to each other. And because Leanne's doing more bento style today, a lot of times we would serve more family style, but today it's all small dishes. It'll all be plated. And so just kind of an assortment of dishes that we've picked up from our travels and all over the place. We don't put all the glassware on the table because we'll set up a little drink station for people when they come in, so they can grab drinks, grab a little appetizer, and then they just bring their drink to the table. Sometimes we assign that to a guest. You know, everybody likes to come in and say, oh, what can I do to help? And it's nice to have a little task for them to do, and keeps them, especially if we're a little behind, it gives us a little more time. So after dinner, we usually clear everything out. People might still be sitting around, and we'll pull out an after dinner game. One of our favorites is The Mind. And it really just, if anybody's feeling a little quiet, like it just gets everybody involved and talking and laughing.
The very first date Charlie ever invited me on, he cooked for me here, and we sat in this little corner like two lovebirds. It was so sweet. Mm-hmm. He's really, really romantic. Charlie's specialty is Thai cooking, and he made me an amazing Thai meal. So this shira dressing, shira means white, and ia means to mix. And so this is traditionally a tofu-based dressing that you see a lot in Japan that gets used on all different fruits and vegetables. For my shira, I added some hydrated sunflower seeds and just a dollop of olive oil so that it turned it into a creamier dressing, as opposed to sometimes shirais you see are kind of like a crumbly dressing, where I prefer the emulsified because it just feels a little bit more refined. And also I keep a pack of these gloves handy because, again, in food service, it's just so nice to be able to keep your hands clean but move quickly through a task. And so I like to have those on hand for, you know, when I'm preparing food for my friends. We have a handful of different sake for our friend to try tonight. I love offering sake with a dinner because, unlike wine, it's low or no acidity and zero tannin, and so it really doesn't require as precise of pairings, and sakes go really well with a wide variety of food. And in fact, because they all have different flavor profiles in and of themselves, they're all going to bring out different qualities and characteristics. So whereas one may bring out the sweetness of the persimmon, the other may bring out the smokiness of the dashi. And for my friends tonight, I'm going to invite them to sip and sample across all of these 4 sake and decide which one's their favorite, and so I can get their feedback on that. And then I also whipped up a little mocktail. So this one is called amazake, which translates to sweet sake, and it's that very first step of making sake, adding in the culture to the rice and letting it just ferment about, a week or so, and it's before any of the sugars have turned into alcohol. And so you still get a really nice fermented rice flavor without any of the alcohol, and it's sweeter. So what we did to kind of balance out the sweetness is add some fresh yuzu as well as lemon, and that's a easy mocktail that you can just batch up ahead of time. What we're gonna do is just shake it over ice and pour it. Charlie's got these really gorgeous glasses that we're gonna serve them in. So Charlie's bringing over all of the glassware so that as soon as our friends arrive, we can start pouring some drinks for them and, make sure that we get the party started right. It's a Japanese tradition that you wouldn't pour sake for yourself. And it is actually considered bad luck to pour sake for yourself. And so we're going to make sure to pour the glasses for our friends tonight. I don't know all the lore around why that superstition got started. But what I love about not being able to pour your own sake is that it really encourages this sort of attentiveness to your friends who you're spending time with and sharing a meal with, and that you might take turns and pour each other a drink. It's just that kind of extra little specialness that I love. Okay, our friends are arriving any minute now, and I do like to have a little bit of theater in that I still want to be plating dinner when they're arriving. It's one of the things that even though I'm not going to be actively cooking, I can still kind of be in motion and show that there's not just like food that's been sitting on the table for who knows how long. And so what I want to have ready by the time that they arrive is this snack spread, and that way they have a little something to nibble and delight in while I finish the plating. And so for the snacks, what we have is a cream cheese dip with some white miso, sweet white miso. And then we have the cucumber as well as pink radish pickles. And this is a unique thing that we actually brought back from Japan. I'm super excited to see how people respond to it, but it's a pickle made with burdock root. And it's got this really toothsome, interesting texture to it. And so again, with all the colors, we're gonna get a full rainbow on this snack tray for them, along with some nice crisp with these tamari rice crackers. I'm arranging everything so that it really invites people to make their way around the tray in pockets. So you could say it's a little bit of a bento style, that everything kind of has its own place in the tray, and those pockets of color just really pop. I am finishing up this appetizer spread. Charlie just went to grab some ice because we love to have just a bucket of sparkling water set up on the way in so that our friends can help themselves to a water before they even come in the door. They have a refreshment. And it also, as you can see, we have limited space. We don't like to clutter it. A small space can feel cluttered really quick. So having sparkling waters on the front porch is a great way to greet our guests. Okay, our friends are just arriving, and just in time we have all of our snacks spread set up, as well as our sake, our mocktail, and Charlie's just pulling the edamame off the stove. So we are ready. Oh, thank you. We'll probably bring it back for lasagna, but thank you. Hey, how are you doing? Come in.
Beautiful. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Doing so well. Thank you. Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you
a
for
good one.
being here. Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for having you.
Gotcha.
I didn't get you.
we're just about ready. We have all of the dishes plated and set. The one last thing we're gonna do is ladle the miso soup so that that goes on as a hot component, and then we'll invite our friends to come sit down. This is the miso broth. Miso does settle, so you just want to give it a nice stir before ladling it on top of the soup. And, you know, I always have friends asking how they can help. This is one area where I'm gladly going to accept some help. I'm going to ask Kelsey to go ahead and bring each one of these over to the table. And then as soon as all the soups are set, we'll invite everybody to come sit down.
I can't, it's tricky. I have to enlist someone because I can't pour it myself.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to make a friend.
Taught me something.
Which one did you say was good with the person?
The Bride of the Fox. This is that last piece.
So cool.
Thank you so much, Leanne.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. You can start with the miso soup while it's nice, piping hot still. I do like to sip it and then use the chopsticks to eat what's there, but there is a small spoon there if you would like to use a spoon. Yeah.
My goodness. Wow.
In your bowl, that's what I would have next, is kind of work your way around the bowl. There's rice, a grilled kale salad, parsnip and carrot tempura, and then the salmon with wasabi furikake or avocado. And this is kind of like a savory foray into persimmons. So I had multiple times when we were in Japan just now, persimmon shirae. It's a salad made with tofu. Shira means white and a means to mix, and so it's like a white dressing that's dairy-free. And I also added in sunflower seed into the dressing itself to make it more creamy, and then as a topping. Yeah, so y'all enjoy.
Thank you.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Skye. This is my home in London. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, I'm Skye McAlpine, and today we're in my home in London, which is a Victorian townhouse in southwest London near the park. 5 stories, so it's very tall with lots of stairs, so it's really good exercise going up and down the stairs. I live here with my husband Anthony and our 2 boys, Aeneas, who's 10, almost 11 years old, and Achille, who is 4. I read classics at university, so I've always had a soft spot for classical literature, so they're 2 great, or 2 of the great Greek and Roman heroes. So Aeneas is the founder of Rome, and Achille is just the Italian for Achilles, the Greek hero. So I just thought they were really beautiful names. So I am a cookery writer, or I started as a cookery writer. So I write cookbooks and I develop recipes and contribute to magazines and various platforms online. And 2 years ago nearly now, I launched my own tableware range as well. So now I'm also a small business owner. So I grew up in Italy, I grew up in Venice. And so it's impossible, I think, to grow up in Italy and not love food. So I've always been very greedy and I've always enjoyed good food and good meals. But I think I was very lucky that I grew up in a home where food always meant more than, it was always more than just the sum of ingredients. It was always more than lunch or dinner. It was always an opportunity to bring together friends and family, or new friends, old friends. It's always kind of a very social moment and a very happy moment in the day. So I think that's where my passion for cooking for others and for bringing people together around the table really started from. And then everything else kind of stemmed from there. So the cookbooks and the tabletop, that's all kind of like an extension. They're all kind of pieces in the puzzle. Well, welcome to my hallway. It's very small and narrow, and it leads straight onto the kitchen and the living room. So we didn't really have too much to work with this space, but we wanted it to feel still kind of quite special and very welcoming. So the starting point was this wallpaper, which is hand painted by this wonderful artist called Alistair Peebles, who our friend Ben Pentry found for us. And we came up with the design together. So it's inspired by antique Swedish wallpaper. And then when Alistair was painting it, he wanted to incorporate elements that were kind of representative, or that in some way captured the spirit of me and my husband. So my husband loves birds, so we have all these beautiful birds. And then I love fruits, so there are pomegranates and lemons as well in the wallpaper. So it feels it's very, very special for us. And so that kind of is the sort of big impact element of the hallway, and it leads all the way up the stairs to the living room. And then we needed a table, but it's a really narrow space. So we wanted to get kind of like a half moon table to sort of create that sense of hallway, and also somewhere to just pop all our bits. Like I have this lovely antique brass basket where I just kind of put all the keys and clutter. So we found this one at an antiques market, and it's just a simple marble top and then a kind of really pretty ornate wooden carved design around the edges. And then I just kind of try and fill it with a mixture of useful things like keys and wallets and sunglasses and hairbands, like those kind of things that you're like grabbing when you're dashing outside of the doorway. But also, like, I like to have flowers in the hallway. This is a really beautiful vase, ceramic 1920s vase that my husband Anthony gave me for my birthday this year, and I absolutely love it. And it's really clever. It's kind of got these little holes inside it, so you can kind of put the flowers, and it holds them in a really pretty arrangement. And then we have all our little pictures. I love this one of Achille, our youngest, that his godfather gave us in this beautiful antique frame. So I always kind of keep this here. And then kind of I also keep, whenever we get given letters, or if I host a dinner and there's a menu or something, kind of a memento of evening, I like to keep those as well. And when people sweetly come for dinner and send us thank you notes, I always keep those. And these are so beautiful. This is a friend of ours who's Matthew Rice. He's an incredibly talented illustrator, and he sent us very sweetly, adorably, a thank you note, and he kind of illustrated the envelope so it looks like the steps, our front steps. Yeah. Oh, and then I also love this lamp, which is a stork. So we found it in an antiques market in Brussels, and it's a stork kind of bird, which I think is quite cute. And then I got it rewired, and then added this really beautiful hand-painted lampshade from Rosie de Ruig, who I love. I just love her designs. I think she's incredibly clever. And there's just like a sort of pop of colour that sort of very lightly picks up the sort of dusty red of the pomegranates and the wallpaper. One of the things that I love about this house is that it's an old house. It's a Victorian house. So it has kind of really good bones, I'd say, lovely high, tall ceilings, kind of a nice sort of architectural structure to it. But when we bought the house, it had been developed by a property developer, I think probably in the 1990s, and most of the kind of the charm had been sort of ripped out of it, and kind of it had a very modern kitchen and very modern bathrooms. The fireplaces had been taken out. There were no cornices. It had kind of very contemporary flooring. So it really kind of, and it had been quite cheaply done as well. So it really lacked soul, but the sort of outside of the house and the sort of structure, the bones of the house were magical. And so we kind of knew that it had such potential. So we worked with a really good friend and completely brilliant architect called Ben Pentreath, who very sweetly worked with us to kind of inject some magic back into the house. So when we were talking about how we wanted the house to feel, the things that were important for me was like lots of light, and that was one of the things that the house already had, these kind of big windows, so it was naturally very light, but lots of colour, and to feel very cosy, and kind of comfy, and like it had kind of always been lived in, and also welcoming. And, you know, for the kitchen space needed, of course, to work for me, because I work there when I'm developing recipes, as well as like when we're having supper there as a family. But also, you know, I've never knowingly said no to a party. I love a good party. So we kind of also built the kitchen, or designed the kitchen in such a way that it's a very flexible space, and you kind of move things around and have 20 or 30 people over for dinner when we want to. And now this is my favourite room. Come with me. This is the kitchen, come dining room, come home workstation, come tavola, tableware design station. It's kind of where everything happens. So this, when we bought the house, this was kind of 2 rooms, and the kitchen was actually down this end where we now have the dining room. And over here they had a sort of more of a dining area, and we kind of knocked through to make it kind of a kind of really big light space, so you can get the light from both sides. And it was a really big project. We kind of put the floors in, and we put the cornices in, and the antique Murano chandeliers. So it kind of was very, very, very different when we first got the keys to the house. So this is our dining table. So I think you comfortably seat about 12. And then if we have a big party, I add extensions on, so you can kind of have a table that goes all the length of the room. And this is I think it's an antique French one. We found it again at a antiques store. And it's very beaten up, and it's slightly warped and very gnarly, but I quite like that because I think wood kind of becomes more beautiful and more characterful with age. So here we are laid up for dinner. These plates are ones that I created for my tableware collection, Tavola, and they're called the Lido plates, and they're named after the beach in Venice is called the Lido, and that's kind of like my happy summer place. But the inspiration for them is, you can see they come in pink and in yellow, and I like mixing them together. And the inspiration for them is this kitchen. So as you can see, the kitchen is yellow, which is my favourite colour, but inside, my other favourite colour is pink. So inside the drawers, we kind of went for a sort of strawberry ice cream pink. So I kind of love that the plates reflect the kitchen in a way, and they sort of work perfectly in this space. And you can kind of see as well, like we've got kind of pink candy stripe curtains over here, and then we decided to paint the frames of the window yellow as well to kind of just pop and match the kitchen. These are all plates on my windowsill. So these are all samples from Tavola, or plates that I've bought from Tavola just for myself because I love them so much. But we filled, so we have this massive cabinet that we bought in Brussels at an antiques market, and then had reconditioned. So we sort of had it repainted. It was like a sort of black, and then so we sort of painted it a light shade of grey with this sort of delicate green edging that sort of slightly picks up on the chairs. And then we lined it with this really, I love quite sort of 1950s style Antoinette Poisson wallpaper that I'm a big fan of. And then this is just like the most amazing thing we've ever bought, because it's just, I thought it was an infinite amount of storage, and it is a lot of storage, but somehow I managed to have more plates than we could fit in here. Okay, so for example, this plate here is the inspiration for the blue and white Tutti Frutti plate, and this is, I think, 1950s or 1960s British explode polka dot. And you can see there's this adorable like blue trim with the blue polka dots. So this is very much the inspiration for the Tutti Frutti plates. I found this at a flea market and they only had like 4. So I kind of then wanted to make a version of this that I could have a whole table full of, and hopefully other people could enjoy in their homes as well. So everything kind of comes with its story or has a story, and I love to mix and match vintage and new, and even when something's new, I kind of love it to have a story or a reason why it kind of behind the design. I mean, these, for example, this is a set that I absolutely love and I'm dying to reimagine in some way for Tavola. It's just got this very chic blue, and actually they come in blue and in turquoise, but they've kind of got like 6 of one and 8 of the other. This kind of almost like a sort of nautical rope around the edge, but I just think they're so pretty. It's just such a simple detail, but quite distinctive and very happy. Like it's a really sort of strong poppy happy colour. I mean, it depends who you're talking to. If my husband were here, I'd have to say that I have reached my limit and I have stopped buying plates. But given that he's not, I'll give you the honest answer, which is, yeah, no, I love them. I mean, I love, it's nice to have different plates for different occasions. And, you know, I do love having big parties, so I actually do, part of kind of making it simpler and easier and more fun to entertain is actually having all the pieces that you need. So you're not kind of like, when I used to do it, I'd borrow some from my mother and then borrow some from a friend and this and that. Now I have enough that like we can kind of host as many people as we like, and you can kind of really change up the mood of the table very easily. And I just think it's such a simple way of bringing joy into your life. Like I kind of love if I'm having breakfast and I have it on a really pretty plate that suits my mood. It makes me feel kind of special. And then suddenly like my toast and jam just feels that little bit more exciting. I feel like I've got that down pat now because I love doing it. So I do it probably far too often. But I kind of prepare everything in advance. And, you know, I've got my second cookbook, actually, A Table for Friends, was all about this idea. It's all recipes that you can cook easily, whether it's for 2 or for 20 people, and how to plan a meal when you're kind of catering for larger numbers, so that you can actually enjoy the party too and have a fun time, rather than kind of be slaving away in the kitchen going quietly insane from stress and exhaustion. So, I mean, I keep it very, very simple. I do lots of like big salads or big bowls of maybe grains, or quite often I'll do something like, you know, cold roast beef that I can prepare in advance and then just slice, or, you know, some nice big roast chickens or something like that, or a panzanella, you know, kind of which is sort of just torn bread with maybe fresh tomatoes and a bit of fennel in there and some fresh herbs and some olive oil. So like really simple things. So this is one of my favourite things in this kitchen, this collection of copper moulds, which I've built up over years. And they're all different, sort of, as you can see, lots of different shapes. And ages, and actually, so they will have slightly different kind of textures and patterns and colourings, but I quite like that. And I use them for cooking. I'll use them to make jellies, to make panna cotta, some even like this one. I love this one, so cute, with a little teapot on top. It's really cute. Like if you butter it, you can make a kind of bundt cake, you know, like a nice sort of spongy cake in there. But I also, like, for storage, I sort of have them on the wall and they double as decoration. And my absolute favourite, I mean, I don't like to play favourites, but my absolute favourite is the pussycat up there that you can see that a friend sent me, and she found it in a shop and very sweetly knew that I would love it, and I'm obsessed. And sometimes I make jelly in it, and one time, this was my proudest moment, I made like a sort of black velvet jelly. So it was Guinness and a little bit of Prosecco, I think I mixed in. So it was black, so it was like a black cat, but then I did set cream for the little nose and the little paws and the tip of the tail, so it had like little white nose and feet and tail tip, so it looked like a black cat for Halloween. So anyway, that's my absolute favourite, but I love them all very much. I love the cherries too. This is, yeah, my favourites. And then over here I also have, that I'm obsessed with, this is something that we designed for Tavola, and we call it the Aurora box, and it looks like a stack of plates, but it's actually a secret box. And I genuinely find this the most useful thing to have in the kitchen, because I just fill it with clutter. I mean, there's like the boys' sweets in there, I've got some matches, keys, usually there are like coins, cables, phone chargers, all sorts of ugly bits and bobs, and you can just sort of tidy them away in there. And it looks quite pretty. But also it's quite funny because like quite often, sometimes I'll have a friend over and they'll like come over and be like, I'm just going to grab a plate, and they think it's a stack of plates, but it's not. Secret box. So I love that. And then this is kind of the main part of the kitchen. The hub being our cooker, which is La Conche and huge. And yet I still run out of oven space occasionally, but it's two double ovens and a small oven, and then a warming oven, and a lot of hobs. I've never run out of hobs, but I have run out of oven space. But this is the dream to cook with, I must say. At our old flat, we bought a second-hand small La Conche cooker, and we were there for 15 years. And I loved cooking on it every single day. So when we moved in here and we were doing the new kitchen, I knew instantly the one thing that I really wanted was a really big one of these. And so this kind of was the beginning of the design for the kitchen, because we had this huge cooker that we needed to sort of somehow fit in. And then everything else was kind of built around that. I mean, I have a very, very sweet tooth, so I'm not going to lie, I love baking cakes. And the thing I probably love the most, and for this you really need time, so it's for those moments like when I do have time, but I love making a birthday cake. So whether it's for, my sons, or for myself, or for my husband, or for friends, the greatest privilege in the world, I think, is to make someone a birthday cake. It's such a sort of celebratory moment. It's really fun to make, because I'm quite greedy, so I'll kind of like take a spoon. I'll happily lick the spoon or lick the bowl once we're done. But it's a really fun thing to bake, and then it's such a kind of like rewarding and celebratory kind of dish to share with others. So the other thing that I love about this kitchen, I mean, there's lots I love about this kitchen, but is this kitchen island, which is an old workman's table that I found it online. And bought secondhand, and then we had it reconditioned, so we changed the top to be marble, so it kind of picked up and matches the marble worktops in the rest of the kitchen. And then we added on the wheels, so you can kind of wheel it around, so it makes the space super flexible. So for example, if we're hosting a big party, I can kind of wheel this out onto the terrace and then put trestles in here, or if I'm cooking and shooting, I can kind of move it over to a different corner of the kitchen. And I love the space being flexible. I think that works really well for us. And then here we have a lot of our food storage, which is in jars and these open shelves. And the shelves are made out of old cheese boards. So when we bought them, they already had like a lovely patina and texture to them. It didn't kind of feel too new and jazzy. And then we added on these hooks to hang all our mugs. This is my strawberry mug that we did for Tavola. That's with a lovely kind of like braided handle that I love. But I've also like collected other random ones over the years, like Christmas mugs. And then these are some mugs that I designed for Anthropology a few years ago. So yeah, I love drinking tea from a mug. I always start the day with a mug of tea. So I love my mugs. So I don't know what the right way to make tea is, but I'm very lazy about it. And I kind of, normally I'll just have a kind of tea bag and then add a splash of milk and some sugar. But if I'm having friends joining me for like 11s or morning tea, then I will put special tea in the teapot and use a strainer. And usually use teacups rather than mugs. But not always. Sometimes it's just nice to drink from a mug because it's very cozy and comforting to drink from a mug. And then here we have our big sink, and we've got 2 dishwashers, 1 and 2. That one is now going to keep opening. But which I love because, you know, I do so much cooking, and there are a lot of pots and pans and a lot of plates that need washing up. And it is the greatest luxury in the world, I've got to say, having 2 dishwashers. It's absolutely life-changing. So I love that. And then we have this other little wooden table that's also on wheels. So you can kind of move it around, again, just trying to keep the space as flexible as possible. And last but not least, my yellow sunshine fridge, which I absolutely adore, just because it's such a happy colour. I mean, what's not to love? Cheese, lots and lots of cheese. Milk, cream. I'm quite lazy, so I love some like chopped onion in the freezer. That we probably like always have, maybe a bottle of Prosecco or something like that. And we've been away for like a week, so my fridge is going to be kind of quite mortifying. Some veggies in there. Usually there are some like condiments languishing in a far corner that have maybe been there a bit too long. But yeah. Butter, lots of butter. So I'd say the decor of our home feels it's very colourful. I love colour. I always dress quite colourfully. I don't own many black dresses. I'm always wearing lots of colour. I love vintage things or antique things. So I'd say our home has a lot of character. It's full of kind of quirky bits and pieces that maybe I've found in a flea market or on eBay or here and there. So it's sort of maybe quite eclectic. Lots of, it's quite chintzy. So I love a floral, hence my floral dress. So there's quite a lot of like floral prints and stripes as well. I love stripes. So it's a mix, I'd say, of florals and stripes. And the colours are all quite sort of like pastel coloured, other than this room, which is sort of, well, this is like, I think kind of like, I like to think of like the house as like ice cream colours. So this is the raspberry sorbet room. But our kitchen is more of like a soft kind of, I'd say, custard ice cream. It's yellow or like a nice lemon sorbet. And then we've got like pink finishes, like soft pink finishes that are more like a sort of a strawberry ice cream or a strawberry milkshake. So I love kind of soft colours as well as poppy colours. And just light and kind of, I mean, it's definitely a very imperfect home. It's always really messy. It's full of clutter. I love clutter. I love having all the things that I love around me. So it's busy as well. So now come with me. We're going to go upstairs to the living room, study, part of the house. So this is our living room. Welcome. This is the couch. It's super comfy, super squishy. I've actually slept on this couch and it's unbelievably comfortable. We kind of fallen asleep watching a movie and then spent the night here. And we had it upholstered in this chintz that I'm completely obsessed with. It's a Jean Monroe design and I just love it. I love this intense blue and I love the big pink roses. And then we ended up actually having curtains to match in the study. So it sort of draws the 2 rooms together a little bit. But I could literally like live in a house that was covered in this chintz. I love it so much. But my other favourite thing in this room possibly is we use this as a bar. It's actually a 1950s Fornasetti fridge that we had restored so that it works, and we kind of use it as a bar. So we keep kind of all the Prosecco and drinks that need to be cold there, and then have our sort of liqueurs and so forth on top. But I kind of love, I love all Fornasetti things, but especially the old stuff I think is kind of really the best. So I was very excited to find this. This fireplace we put in because all the the fireplaces have been taken out of the house, so we sort of had them put back in. And this actual, this marble fireplace we bought in an antiques shop in Brussels, and then had it fitted. And I do love it, and it's nice and deep, so you can kind of put, I haven't got anything on here today, but quite often I'll put vases of flowers or books or whatever. You can kind of decorate it quite nicely, which I really like. And then coming round, other things that I love in this room, this is a picture of my grandmother. I think it's the only picture I have of her actually, in black and white. I think she looks very glamorous, so I love this photo of her. And then here I have my sort of little trinkets, my scented candles, my matches, a little vase of flowers. This is a Murano glass vase that we do for tavola, and it's the first design of vase that we did for tavola in this lovely sugar pink was the first colour. Now we make it in lots of other colourways, in blue and like a sort of soft gold and clear with different things. But I think because it's the first one we did, it's very, very special to me. So I always have that there. I feel like I always have quite jazzy lampshades. I do like a colourful lampshade. This one's quite faded now, and it's fabric, whereas most of our other lampshades through the house, I think, are paper. But it was just quite a beautiful ECAP print that I kind of really liked. And I think because the base is quite simple, it's nice to have a little pop of colour up top. And then, I love our stripy curtains as well. So this is just the sort of red ticking, like a red stripe, like much thinner than the sort of pink stripes downstairs. And then here, I love this. I've got my sort of bits and bobs, like random collection of vintage cookbooks. The Book of the Onion. Isn't that not a fab cover? If nothing else, 150 ways of cooking it. The Onion. So there's this guy called Ambrose Heath, who was a very prolific cookery author in 1950s UK, and I buy a lot of his books on Abe Books. Here he is again, vegetable dishes and salads, partly because they actually are full of like really fun and quite like unusual recipes in it by today's standards, but also because whoever was designing his book covers was supremely talented, and they're all these like really fun, colourful, quite like iconographic covers, which I love. And then this I absolutely love. This is a portrait of our two boys, Ines and Aquila, that my mother gave me, and she had I'd taken a photo of them in the bath, and she had this portrait painted in oil. So I love that. That's very precious for me. So when I was about 5 or 6, I think I was 6 years old, my parents moved to Venice. And the idea was, my mother had lived in Rome in her early 20s and loved it and fallen completely in love with Italy and loved everything Italian. And so my parents really thought that, it would be fun to live in Venice for a year, almost kind of taking a year out. I was going to go to school in Venice, learn to speak Italian, and then we'd come back to England. But Venice is a very special and in many ways quite seductive city. So we kind of just fell in love and then never really left. And then I went to, I really grew up there, and it is for me home. I'd say of all the places in the world, it's the one that most feels like home. And so I grew up there, I went to school there. And then when I turned 18 and I graduated from high school or liceo, high school equivalent, I came to university in England, which is where I met my husband. And then after university, my husband started work in London, but I actually continued my studies for a few years, doing postgraduate work, and then I became a cookery writer. So I've sort of always had this great luxury that as long as I have a kitchen and a laptop, kind of work from anywhere. So we fell into this habit of I spend about half the year in Venice. So I'm kind of backwards and forwards between London and Venice. So this is my study. This is where I work often if I'm on Zoom calls or if I'm writing, sometimes even if I'm kind of focusing on design elements and I really want peace and somewhere to concentrate and somewhere with a door that I can shut and kind of be alone. This is where I come. I love this room. We painted it this really like raspberry sorbet red, which I kind of really love because it's quite a sort of dark room naturally, so it sort of felt nice to kind of embrace that with the colour, and it does feel very, very cosy. So here I've got like some fun things that I've had framed. So that is, my mother had a food shop in London in the 1980s, so that's a picture of her in her shop. And at one point, my father also worked as an antiques dealer. So he had another also shop in, I think, 70s or 80s. And it's a photo of him in his shop. So I quite like that. And then these are just menus from dinners that I've hosted in the past that were special to me in some way. That I just framed the menus, and I like to keep them. I keep all my menus. And then this is kind of wall-to-wall books. On this side are all my cookbooks, which controversially I've organised by colour, which is largely because I just find it's quite hard, like I might not always remember the title of the book, but I pretty much always remember what the cover looks like. So I find this, for me, it's the easiest way to find my books. But I've got lots more actually, but this is my sort of core collection. And I love them. They're my pride and joy, and they've given me so many hours of fun. So this is my third cookbook now. And this is a really fun book to write because it is a cookbook and it is, over 100 recipes or however many it is. I can't remember exactly how many I did in the end. But it's basically a book about love. And the premise of the book is whenever you cook for someone, it's an expression of love. Even if you're kind of making someone a cup of tea or slicing them some toast and buttering it, it's always an expression of love. So the book explores different kinds of love. And then to go with each chapter, which is about a different kind of love, are recipes. So there are recipes for two, for like romantic date nights. There's recipes for one. There's a big chapter on self-love. There are recipes that you can cook for your family, there's a chapter on unconditional love. There's a big chapter on friendship and a big section on comfort food. So it was really, really fun to write because it's quite a sort of emotional book as well as being a cookbook. And I'm a very greedy person, so I love cooking and testing recipes, and but it was really fun. So this wall, we were going to put pictures up, but actually I use it as a mood board, and it's ever evolving and ever changing. So I put little things up here that I just love, like little drawings. If I go to, if there's sort of an invitation that someone sends me that I think is particularly beautiful, or I really like the colour or the motif that in some way I think might be inspiration for a design or something that I want to work on. For a long time we've been working on these little cards for Tavola, which are beautiful illustrated cards by Isabel Wilkinson, and each one is so this is like a little table setting, this is a tea moment, but each one comes with kind of a recipe or some tips, and it comes with things. So when we were working on that, I had a lot of components up here. So I always quite like this corner. It's always quite inspiring. So I definitely take a lot of inspiration from Venice. I find I do my best work in a way when I'm there, definitely in terms of writing or kind of bigger picture work, like kind of thinking about new design elements or whatever it is. It's such a beautiful city. It's impossible not to feel inspired in Venice. It's very peaceful. Everything's on the water. There are no cars. The buildings are very old and ornate and kind of beautifully made. So a lot of those elements sort of sort of naturally just kind of feed into what I do, and to, I guess, help to form an aesthetic that's sort of colourful and a little bit over the top, but not too perfect. Because I always think the buildings in Venice are kind of beautiful and opulent and stunning and so much, but then they're also kind of slightly crumbling, or, you know, there's always an element that feels a little bit kind of worn in, which I think is the coziness. You always need the coziness at a table, in a room, or in a space. So I think that's a lot of the inspiration. And I guess in terms of how I cook, it's the food that I grew up eating, that I sort of strongly associate with comfort food, with happy memories. So it's sort of, a lot of my recipe inspiration comes from there as well. I mean, I think the soul of any home comes from the kitchen. For us, it's definitely the busiest room in the house, in that it's the room that we spend most time in, and probably where our happiest times, certainly as a family, are. It's, you know, where friends come over to be with us. I love pottering around and cooking. And it's a really colourful room. So we went for kind of a really, like a sort of buttercream custard yellow, kind of inspired by Monet's kitchen in Giverny. And it's a really happy colour. It kind of feels like sunshine, even on the greyest day, because London has a propensity. Today's quite a sunny day, but more often than not, it's quite grey and overcast. So even on the greyest day, it sort of feels like there are rays of sunshine in that kitchen. This is our bedroom. I love this room. It's at the back of the house, because the house is on quite a busy road, looking onto the park on quite a busy road. So it's nice because it's sort of quieter part of the house. I mean, the thing that I love most about this room is the walls. And this looks like wallpaper, but it's actually fabric, which feels so nice, and is so nice for a bedroom, because it kind of has that sort of like, again, sort of very cosy, very tactile element to it. It's another opportunity for chintz, so more chintz. But this was a roll of fabric that was sort of discontinued, and so we just did it for the walls of the room, and I absolutely love it. And then, you know, it's quite a small room, so it's really just room for this bed, which is 4-poster. And then we had we couldn't quite find a sort of second-hand or antique or vintage iron frame 4-poster bed that quite worked for us. So we bought a regular bed, and then Ben Pentreath's design team found someone who could just add the posters on, who could add, you know, make it 4-poster for us. So that is a kind of lovely detail that makes me very happy. And then what else do I have? This is my sort of corner where sometimes I sit. This is a cushion. It's looking a little bit well loved, but it's a cushion that I tapestried during the first lockdown during COVID. It's like a peony. Again, it's my favourite colours, pink and yellow together. But I love doing needlepoint. I find it very soothing and relaxing and very rewarding. So that's one of the cushions I made. Here are other ones that I've been making, but I need to finish off and have turned into cushions. But then it's really nice to have them around the house, and you have the memories of the time that you made it. Does he love florals? I don't think he loves them as much as I do, but he does. I think he likes the sofa, and he likes the walls in this room. I think he doesn't mind a floral, but I wouldn't say he's as into them as I am. And then I love this bedspread. This is more florals. This I think is actually preen, but it feels quite vintagey. And again, it's yellow and pink, my favourite colours. I quite like that it's reversible, so you can kind of use it both ways round, and so change up the room a little bit by turning it over. And it feels really smushy and cosy. And then I also love this chinoiserie bureau. I kind of always wanted a bureau, and I kind of use it to store trinkets and everything. But it's just, you know, if I'm writing notes or I want a space to work in the bedroom, I can kind of use it as a desk as well. This we actually found from an antique dealer called, now his name escapes me, but an antique dealer in the Cotswolds. And I saw it and I just had to have it. I'd always wanted one like this. So I completely fell head over heels for it. So from the bedroom, come with me through to our bathroom. So this is our bathroom. Also kind of doubles as a dressing room. So you've got kind of all the clothes storage over there on that side of the room. And then, I mean, I've got to say the thing I love most about this room is the bath. This was originally 2 small rooms. So this floor actually was kind of 2 bedrooms and 2 small bathrooms. And we sort of knocked it through to make a small bedroom and then a generous bathroom come dressing room. And the thing I was completely obsessed with, the thing I wanted more than anything was a copper bath, which is here. And I must say, I love it. I mean, I'm definitely a bath person rather than a shower person. And it is the coziest thing in the world to have a copper bath because it conducts heat. The whole thing kind of warms up gently. So kind of when you lie back against the bath, you don't it doesn't feel cold. It feels nice and toasty and warm. And I think there's a lovely glow from the colour of the copper as well. So you feel very, very cocooned. But I love my bath. And then this is another fireplace that we bought in again from a different antiques market actually in Brussels. And then we put in, this was sort of inspiration, we took inspiration from one of the fireplaces at our flat in Venice that has tiles as well as the actual fireplace. So we had these lovely sort of Delft style tiles put in, which I like and makes it feel very different from the fireplace down in the living room. So these are quite cute. These are little houses, little blue and white houses, Dutch houses, and they're from KLM, the Dutch airline. I bought them from a flea market, but apparently if you fly business class, they give you one of these little houses, and they're all sorts of different designs and shapes that you need to collect, filled with alcohol. And so it's like a tiny little collectors. Anyway, I just thought they'd kind of go. I bought these, like I say, secondhand, but it's a small collection that I want to build on because I think it goes quite nicely with the Delft tiles. Yeah. Sorry, these are meant to go on the wall. These are going to go on the wall, and my mother actually gave them to us for Christmas. They're painted by someone called. Her line is Josephine Dessine, and she does custom plates. So this is me with my cookbooks that very sweetly my mother had made, and then this is the sort of matching one to go with it. But they're too beautiful to eat from, so I want to have them mounted on the wall somewhere, but I haven't got around to it yet. And then this is a portrait of my grandmother, looking very glamorous. So it's nice to have her in here. And then in terms of, this is a freestanding mirror that we bought in, again, an antiques market in Brussels, but I absolutely love, and actually you can see, if I close it, you can see the doors of the mirror, which I don't actually get to see so often, have this sort of beautiful pattern to them, so even they are quite special. This is my banjo bag, which my a friend, Charlotte Olympia, designed, and I'm completely obsessed with. It's possibly the thing I love most. It's a handbag, but it looks like a banjo. And then I've got other little favourite bits and bobs hanging here that I use. And then this is a little table that we also got in Brussels, and it's just kind of useful storage for like bath salts and bath oils and scented candle and nice bits and bobs. And then these are wardrobes. Here's my shoe cupboard. I love them. I'd say, so I've got maybe 2 top favourites. I love these. because they're tutti frutti. So there's like the banana, and the watermelon, and the pineapple and the strawberry. I absolutely love these. And then I also love these, which are, I mean, both pairs of these shoes are, I'd say, not everyday shoes. These with the lips, the hot lips. And they're both Charlotte Olympia, old ones, but still very, very beloved. And I kind of love, we put a sort of toile de jus behind, so you have that toile element. Home means, I guess, somewhere cozy and somewhere that I can share, somewhere that I can bring the people that I love into. So it's, I mean, typically as long as I've got kind of a table and a way to kind of make toast and tea or something, I'm happy. But it's somewhere where I can be with the people that I love and spend lots of time with them.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome home. Coming up, I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, I'm Dan Pelosi, also known as Grossy Pelosi on the internet. We're here today in my brownstone in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. So Grossy Pelosi started when I was in college. I am 40. So when I was in college, the movie Never Been Kissed came out, which is a Drew Barrymore film, a classic. And in that movie, her nickname, which isn't really kind, is Josie Grossy. And, you know, my friends, of course, because we were in college, started calling me Grossy Pelosi as sort of a way to make fun of me, but also it was loving. So I started using it as all my social media handles, from, like, you know, Friendster, Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, and now here we are 20 years later, and it has stuck. I really like that it's my brand because it's sort of like the Barefoot Contessa to my Anna Garten. It sort of means nothing and everything at the same time. I say that humbly, by the way. But you know, so many people take food very seriously and they get so anxious about it and they want it to be perfect. And I'm like, you know what? Like, the Grossy Pelosi way is just to, like, live, laugh, love. You know, don't be so serious. If you're eating it, it's a success, and just kind of enjoy yourself. So I think it kind of speaks to sort of like the fun and the joy and like the sort of like hopefully sense of anti-anxiety or sort of sense of relief and the ability to laugh at ourselves that I bring to literally the table. So this space it's 2 floors of a brownstone. We moved in about 8 years ago. When I saw the space, it was one of those experiences where I was like, okay, I know where everything I own is gonna go. I know exactly how I'm gonna decorate it. I know where everything belongs. And to me, that's just like how I know something is right. I have a background. I had years doing interior design, retail design, marketing. I'm just like a creative. I went to Rhode Island School of Design for college, so that's my background. So when I can fully flesh out a design in my head just by being in the space, I know that I'm in the right place. So I have a lot of collections, which I'm gonna walk you through. I collect ceramics and vessels, I collect art, I collect textiles, I collect books. And so I was able to find places for all my collections to kind of live in this house, which makes me really calm. I love to take my collections and sort of create ordered chaos. It's all been really possible in this beautiful apartment. It's a through floor of a brownstone on the main floor. So we go window to window, incredible cross breeze. It's absolutely heaven. And it's just perfect for entertaining. At the heart of the space is my dining table, which is behind me, which we'll talk a lot about. It's just a total dream. So we are heading into the heart of the home, which is the dining room. We are sort of at the center of 2 floors of a brownstone. We have 3 bedrooms. This is the main floor. It is like a through floor, so you have windows on both sides, which is gorgeous. It gets really good light. And right here, when I walked into this apartment, I knew the dining room table had to be right here. And actually, I designed this dining table and had it built to my spec because obviously it's the most important part of the house. It's a 10-foot dining table. It's a walnut top. I designed it specifically so that the legs are inset so that you never hit your legs on a leg of a table because I'm 6'2", and that is the most frustrating part of any dinner experience. So I can really squish chairs all the way around this table. It seats, I think the most we've had is like 16 people at this table, which is amazing. I love having huge dinner parties, which makes me super, super happy. I think that everybody should be comfortable at a dining table. So when you come to my house, you pick the chair that is most comfortable for you to sit for a long dinner in. And a lot of my friends now know exactly which chair is theirs when they get to my apartment, which is just such a dream because we don't do short dinners here. So we have the table. I do have this vintage light fixture. I bought this when I was 23 in Los Angeles. I had nowhere to put it, but I knew that I needed it and I kept it. And this is the first time I hung it was when I was, 32 in my apartment in Brooklyn. It moved into a lot of storage spaces, but I'm glad I have it. It's so fun. I have all of my day-to-day tableware on the dining table. I love being able to see things. I collect Heath ceramics. They're my favorite from my years living in San Francisco. So I like to have them out, grab them. It's super easy. Also, I don't have all the storage in the world, so this allows me to put in my cabinets the things I don't want to see and celebrate the things that I do want to see. So it confuses a lot of people, but it absolutely works for me. I have also my Yetis here, which are adjacent to my kitchen. I use them for so many things. First of all, if I'm having a party, the drinks are going in the Yeti, no question. But I also use them for freezer overflow. So I have a lot of food coming in and out of this house. So if I have too much food in my freezer and I want to keep some stuff cool, the Yetis are perfect, especially during the holidays. I also use them just for general storage. So right now, I was just testing some baking recipes. This is full of flour and sugar and chocolate chips because why not? It is a vessel and I like to use it for anything that I need it for. And also I have so many Yetis because they are just my absolute favorite and they come in the best colors. So another good thing about the Yetis is I have an extra guest coming for dinner. I don't have anywhere for them to sit. Pull this out. Suddenly, I'm ready to eat dinner. What can't the Yeti do? This isn't a Yeti ad, by the way. Maybe it should be. So we've gone through kind of like the basics of the dining room, but really my favorite part of the dining room and what I knew when I walked into this space when it was empty and I was looking to rent is that this wall needed to be full of all of my art. I went to art school. I've been collecting art from friends, swapping things, doing a lot of trade for art for years. And I would say about 85% of the art on this wall are from friends of mine and people that I've met throughout my life, starting in college. I'm gonna show you the first piece of art I ever collected. It's this piece right here. I was at RISD, I was a sophomore. My friend Rory was a painting major. He was working on this piece in his studio and I walked in and I was like, I'm completely obsessed with this. And he was like, great, I'm about to throw it out. I can't figure out this leg right here, which if you look hard, I get it, but also like, it's such a beautiful piece. He was like, just take it. So it's sort of like Rory's unfinished painting of a moment on our college campus. And it just like is the best. I've carried it from Providence to San Francisco to Portland, Oregon, to Manhattan, to Brooklyn. It's been with me forever and I love it. This just really sets a mood. My friends who have a design agency in Portland, they made this print and I just thought it was such a great addition, especially around a dining table. It makes me really happy. This is my friend Lauren Jeremiah. She's an incredible interior designer in San Francisco now, but she painted this when we were in college. I'm obsessed with it because guess what? It's a grocery store and where do I spend so much of my time? At the checkout of the grocery store. So I love this piece, it's super colorful. This is a vintage Tom of Finland piece, which I won in a raffle in San Francisco for charity, which I love. Oh my gosh, this piece is unicorns coming out of a wave. When I lived in San Francisco, there was a bodega in my neighborhood that was owned by an Asian family and their kids hung out in the bodega all the time and their daughter would put paintings out in front of the bodega on the sidewalk and she would sell them and I loved all of her paintings and this was her first piece that she did on canvas and I thought it was so beautiful. So that makes me super, super happy to think about my life in San Francisco and that girl and I'm sure she's probably like an incredible artist at this point, like selling pieces. This piece is a painting of a quilt that my friend Brian Paquette, who is another interior designer who I met while I was in college as well, painted. It's so beautiful. I love the color story. It's a bit of calm amongst all the crazy color on my wall. This piece is, it says lasagna. I had it made. I was maybe a little stoned in Santa Monica on the pier, and I was like, I need a sign that says lasagna. I'm obsessed with this beautiful ink drawing. So that's my lasagna piece that I commissioned on the Santa Monica pier. This piece, another slightly strange piece to have near a dining table, but it is from a first aid manual. Someone took it, blew it up, and did a print of it, and I got it at the Alamany Flea Market in San Francisco when I was living there in my 20s, and I just think it's so funny and so good. This is actually me with a teddy bear on a leash and a bag of tartine pastries from San Francisco. My second boyfriend, but longest boyfriend in San Francisco, Adam, his cousin Eddie, was like 13 when I lived there, and he was a painter. So for my birthday, Adam commissioned Eddie to do this painting of me, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. Bears have sort of always been a theme throughout my life. I'm sort of a teddy bear. I just love like all kinds of bear artwork, sculpture. I have some more stuff I'll show you. So that piece is really, really exciting to me. This is, one of my first friends I met in college is Shara Hughes. She's an incredible artist. She's just so bonkers. She's been in like the Whitney. She's in collections all over the world. She's amazing. This piece I bought from her years ago. I have a couple of her pieces. It's so beautiful. It's an abstract interior. It makes no sense, but it kind of makes all the sense in the world, which is sort of a theme around here. I love the panes of glass, and I love, if you can like really, we'll get in here, but you can see sort of like the speckles of pastels and color like through the outside of the window. I think this is like the ocean and a bit of like a sea creature popping up. This painting is just stunning. It's absolutely the best piece in my collection. Makes me really happy. So there's a lot of art. I have more art, but this is sort of like the moment. Like I said, I like to have collections and I like to contain them. So it makes me really happy that in between these two fireplaces, I have sort of like this gorgeous wall of art. So I call myself a food and lifestyle creator. You might call me an influencer. You might call me a chef. Both of those words, I'm not a chef, I'm a home cook. While I do think that people get a lot of influence from the things I do and say, it isn't my goal to sort of like sell you products, except for my cookbook, which comes out September 5th, which you should totally pre-order. But other than that, I just want you to kind of like follow me along in my day-to-day journey, which is sort of how this all started. I've spent years working as a creative director in the retail space, designing spaces, doing marketing. And then during the pandemic, really day one of the pandemic, I started working from home, which meant I took my hobby of cooking on the weekends, which I've been doing my whole life when I was a kid through today, and really started cooking every single meal at home. And because I'm sort of extra and on the internet too much, I shared every meal I made. And that was during a time when people were forced to be home, and a lot of people don't know how to be at home. I happen to be really good at being at home, so I was able to help people by sharing frying an egg, making a sandwich, stocking my pantry, how to make like a comfortable living room, how to set a table. I was able to help people get through the pandemic. I know this because they told me this, and they still tell me this over and over again. And in turn, they helped me get through the pandemic by giving me sort of like something to focus all of my nervous energy and my attention, and ultimately my skills and my knowledge on. And I sort of built this whole brand. I turned Grossi Pelosi into a brand. Like I said, big open floor plan. We now go from the dining room, we flow into the living room, which is a dream for entertaining. I have my two couches. This couch I got in Portland. I had it recovered in Pendleton wool, very Portland. I have some pillows from Caroline Hurley on it. This is my big leather sofa that I got when I moved into this apartment. Of course, I had to have it taken apart to fit into the apartment, but New York City Couch Doctor is a total dream. Here's what they do. I had this delivered to my house, right? I was like, oh my God, it won't fit inside. Call the Couch Doctor, same day they arrive, they hack apart your couch, bring it into your apartment, and then put it back together. Now, luckily this is a pretty easy one to do that to, but if you go to their website, they like actually sometimes saw through the upholstery. They truly know how to dismantle and put together a couch, then you would never know that it happened. They've been here a few times, let me just say that, because this couch has been through it. And so it's amazing. So if you live in New York City, or there's probably couch doctors all over the world at this point, it's a genius concept, but New York tends to have some really tough corners to get around when you're moving into apartments. Grounding this room is lots of rugs. I have my sort of Moroccan rug collection grounded by an IKEA rug. I love to have rugs on top of rugs. I think it's just so much fun. It's a bit chaotic. It's extra colorful. Surrounding us is most of my plants. I do love a plant. I'm blessed to get really good light in these windows, and a lot of these plants have been with me, especially the really tall ones, since I moved in here, and they just keep growing and growing, and it's really great. How do I keep my plants alive? Okay, so the best tip I have for keeping your plants alive is don't overwater them. That is the number one problem with plants, is overwatering. Let your plants physically show you that they need water. Let them get to a place where they're just a little bit sort of sad, just a little sad. Then add water, because if not, you will give them too much water. And a lot of our pots that we use in our indoors, if you don't put some rocks at the bottom or some sort of way for water to filter out of the dirt, they will drown and you will start getting brown leaves. Still happens to me. I'm not perfect, but 9 times out of 10, your plant is turning brown and dying because it's just got too much water. Let the plant show you that it needs water. Also sunlight, great for plants. But I don't use any fertilizers or any special tricks. It's just water and sun. That's it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this coffee table, this like gold trunk I got in Providence, Rhode Island when I was 19 in college. It was $10. I got it at a yard sale. It has been my coffee table in every apartment I've ever lived in, and it's just like absolutely perfect. Also, I'm obsessed with anything you can bring into your house that you could put things inside of and hide them is such a win. So this is currently full of a lot of my party supplies, which is really great. So whenever we have a party, it's like, okay, go into the gold trunk, dream. Obviously I have lots of books, lots of different surfaces. I love things that could be chairs as well as tables. So this little stool is really great. People ask me all the time about these shelving units. They are from IKEA. They are incredible. I have one in my kitchen that I'll show you, and this one is the best TV stand. It allows me to showcase all my objects. Super great. Kind of disappears, which we love because it should just be function over form. I have some blanket collection over here. I have some books, more little vessels to hide things inside of. This is full of all my sort of like special cards and memories that I've gotten over the years. The mantle has a couple of my favorite pieces of art on it. This is a ceramic butt from a ceramicist named Ben Medansky, who is incredible and is doing so many amazing ceramics. I got this from him probably 10 years ago and he has just exploded, but I really love this piece. This is actually one of the best presents I've ever gotten from Philip Ayaska, my friend who does a lot of art. This is a receipt from the River Cafe. Philip was living in London and the River Cafe is one of my favorite restaurants, and he took me there, surprised me, and then he kept the receipt and framed it. And it's just the most beautiful way to memorialize a dinner that I've been fantasizing about my whole life. So really, really cool. This painting is of a cupcake. My friend that I went to grammar school with, Stephanie, her daughter, Isabella, painted this, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. She posted a picture of it on Instagram and I was like, that's the best painting I've ever seen. So she sent it to me and I love it. You probably can't tell, but there are sparkles on the sprinkles, which makes me very happy. So that's a great piece. I tried to not put a ton of big art over the mantelpiece because the big art really happens in the middle. So these are sort of like more visual relief moments and just a few special things, which I love. If we can turn around this way, this is one of the best art finds. One of the best art finds I've ever had. I was in London, same trip as the receipt. I was in London and I found these 2 original Keith Haring prints rolled up in a print shop. They're part of a triptych. I do not have the 3rd one, but this is from the Montreux series from a jazz festival, and they are my favorite Keith Haring pieces. And the fact that I was able to find them I mean, I was just like blown away. They fit perfectly over my couch, and I just absolutely love them. So they are sort of the hero moment of the living room, and they just make me so happy. So kind of one of those magic moments where you just find something you've been looking for forever and where you least expect it. I mean, that's the living room. It's really cozy, fits a lot of people, nothing's too precious, and again, lots of color. It's just the best. I sort of call it like colorful collections, or like a colorful collector. Like nothing matches, but everything matches. It's always sort of like filled with a lot of stuff, but nothing is excess. Like I'm always, if it's here, if it's in my house, like it's because I truly love it. It's because I bought it on a trip, or when I was somewhere special, or I fell in love with an object. I have a lot of things, but all of them have a lot of meaning for me. So to me, it's sort of like, you know, when you go to like grandma's house, you sort of have those sort of like nostalgic items. My goal is to sort of be like modern grandma, and everything in my house just has like a ton of meaning to it. And there's a little bit too much, but it all sort of makes sense. Okay, so we've tackled the dining room and the living room, but now we're going to where all the magic happens, the kitchen. Let's go. This is the most worn path in the apartment from the living room to the kitchen. It's frequented by me. This is my kitchen, which is where I spent the majority of 2020 and 2021, and honestly 2022 as well. And I'll probably spend as much time as I possibly can here the next few months. It is truly the best kitchen. It's, first of all, the crowning moment of the kitchen is the books above the counters. They are all my cookbooks, or almost all my cookbooks. There's a few scattered about, but I do arrange my books in a rainbow, something I've been doing for years. It makes me so happy. I did not invent this. People think I did. It's been going on for years, but I really love it. And it just like really brings sort of like an energy to the kitchen. It's also, they're nice and out of the way, which is great. Also, they do get dirty. You do have to clean them, but that's okay. People, you know, it's worth cleaning sometimes. The kitchen is small but mighty. I have a great island, really great functionality here. I love seeing my items, right? I love my cutting boards. They're super colorful, they're super functional, so I keep them out. I have my Mocha Master, my coffee maker. If I don't have my coffee in the morning, it like sets my day out. The coffee sort of sets my day up. Mocha Masters are amazing. They come in like 32 different colors. Get yourself one. Super great. I always keep a pot or two on my stove just because they're beautiful, they're colorful, we should celebrate them. I have stacks of pots everywhere. Of course, I have plants on top of my fridge. Top of the fridge, this space has saved me. I mean, it's just everything has been up there at some point. I do have my KitchenAid mixer up here. It's really, really great, really functional. Here's my kitchen must-haves. So you definitely need to have a good Dutch oven. This one's a bit small, but this is a 5.5 quart. I use this one pretty much daily. And there's a couple pans here. These are not nonstick. I do have all my nonstick pans over here. You probably need like one good 10 or 12 inch nonstick. That will get you through almost all of your cooking needs. But if you want to put your pan in the oven, we have some good sort of stainless steel pans as well. So I would say a couple of frying pans, a good Dutch oven. You can pretty much cook most things. Probably the only other thing you need is like a good pot to make pasta in, which you could make pasta in your Dutch oven, and then you kind of have to switch and make your sauce in something else or use it after you cook the pasta. But I mean, I make pasta for like 12 out of 10 meals, so a good pasta pot really saves me. I think you need like, you know, your utensils. You need a good wooden spoon. Everyone should have a good wooden spoon. I have a lot, but I do think that the energy in these spoons carries from meal to meal. My grandparents use them. Everyone in my family uses them. I love a good strainer spoon. I love a good spatula, a good cutting board. I talked about my cutting board collection. To be clear, I have too much of everything, but cooking is my job, so that's okay. You don't need as much as I have. But I do have plastic cutting boards. I have some wooden cutting boards. And then I will say this countertop carousel with all of my grab grab and go sort of condiments, and my salt and my pepper and all my basics are really great to have right here when I'm cooking. So this is not just the only part of my kitchen. If we flip around, I'm gonna take you to my ceramic collection and then also my bar. So because I am a collector, I do love ceramics. Again, color coordination. I call this my prop library now because food is something I do professionally, but this has been like this since the day I moved in. Obviously, we've added more stuff, but every time I make something, every time I entertain, every time I photograph something, not only am I making the food, but I'm figuring out what vessel is gonna bring more joy and more energy to that dish, especially if I'm doing a big dinner party. I love figuring out the vase. I love figuring out the bowls. I love figuring out the dishes. So this is just my happy place. It allows me to really finish off the meal by thinking intentionally about kind of like what it's served in. Obviously, this is more than one person needs, but I do this for a job. But also, like, I am always rearranging this. I'm always kind of like figuring out what should go where. And I'm always buying things that end up on this shelf. But it is sort of like one of my true happy places. And then when we moved in, I'm not a huge drinker, but I am a big entertainer. So I was like, we should use this mantle as a gorgeous bar. And I truly think it's so functional. We keep all of our glasses out here. We keep our alcohol. We have a little overflow on the floor, but the majority of the stuff lives up here. It's really easy to grab, really easy for guests to help themselves. If you asked me to make a cocktail, I wouldn't even know where to start because I'm not a drinker. So one of the rules if you come to dinner at my house is I'll handle the food. You can bring wine, alcohol, or maybe a little marijuana. And that makes me happy. So help yourself, make a drink, and then lording over the bar is Starina from The Birdcage, which is Nathan Lane's character in drag. She's sort of been here since the beginning. My friend Brianna Ashby, who's an incredible illustrator, one of my friends from RISD, did this piece, and I just love it so much. So it's a bar. Everything, I like to see everything. I don't like things behind behind doors. There are a lot of things, but I like to see as much as I can. So my favorite thing about my home right now is, I know it sounds cliche, but it's just so colorful. I always joke that I don't have a pop color, I have a pop neutral. So neutral truly is the pop because you really see it in the spaces where there aren't items or objects. You know, I sort of live inside of a rainbow, which, you know, who doesn't want to live inside of a rainbow? I think hopefully everyone does. Actually, that's not true. A lot of people don't want to live inside of a rainbow. I just happen to want to, and I made it happen. So here we are. Might be the gayest thing in the world, but I love it. Okay, so we've done the main floor. Now, as a special treat, we're gonna go to my bedroom. Let's go. Here we go. Surprise, more artwork, more objects, but I do try and keep things a little bit more minimal here. You know, in this apartment, we are on the very top floor. The ceilings are a bit lower. It is a bit more intimate. So I wanted to kind of like keep things minimal. This is how I do minimal. I did for a while have the bed on the floor, which I really loved, but then, you know, eventually I grew up and got a bed frame, but I do love a bed on the floor. So I have, again, layers of rugs, a bit of furniture. I do love the ability to have a place to sit in my room. I will be honest, sometimes clothes end up here, which is totally fine. I have my bed, which I keep really simple. I don't understand, like I don't ever want to pull things off my bed before bed. I like to just have exactly what I need, a couple pillows, a simple bed frame, lots of artwork surrounding my bed. Some of my favorite pieces, this Gemini print. I am a Gemini. You might call it a warning sign over my bed, but I love this vintage print. I got it at Brimfield, which is an incredible flea market. If you are in Massachusetts in the summer, it's amazing. It's like huge. So that piece, there's a couple. That piece on the top on the sidewall is another Shara Hughes piece. lots of pieces from friends here. Really, really great. These two illustrations that flank the Gemini are by my friend Nick Peeney, who does really beautiful black and white figurative illustrations. So great. I have my stack of books, a little candle, a few plants, and then I have some of my favorite little bears. So I collect little bear statues. So when I hit 20,000 followers on Instagram, when this all started, my nieces got me a little Grossi Pelosi branded teddy bear and sent it to me, which was so cute. So this is really special to me. I have a few other little bear sculptures that I love. Just really simple, really open. I would say the most fun that I have in here is I don't have a lot of pictures of family and friends in my apartment. So I wanted to have that moment in my bedroom. So I took some washi tape and just covered this wall right here with lots of just my favorite memories. So I have like my nieces, me as a kid, certain like cards that I've gotten from friends and family. I have my license, my very first license. I have this like funny photo shoot that I did with my sister when we were kids for my parents. Drawings that I think my niece did this one. Just kind of like a scrapbook on a wall. It felt really good for my bedroom. It allowed me to just have those personal moments all be in one place. I have like my day-to-day, I'll grab my laptop, my watch, certain things. And then I have some of my favorite vintage cookbooks here as well. My robe, oh my gosh, this linen robe from Block Shop Textiles is so great. I do have like 4 robes, but this might be my favorite because it is a little warmer right now. That's it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. I do think it really kind of represents a space of calm for me. If you're thinking this isn't calm, I promise you this is what calm means to me. I do have a mirror as well because you got to check the look before you leave. What does the word home mean? You know, it's funny. I'm one of those people that everywhere I go, I sort of feel like I'm home. Like I go on vacation, I feel like I've been there before. I know everyone who's there, and I just sort of walk in and say, hello, hi, how you doing? Oh, good to like I just sort of like kind of make myself at home wherever I am. And I think that's because I've always been so grounded in all of my homes. I had a really amazing family situation growing up. I'm extremely privileged to say that. You know, my parents' home was an epicenter of our family. People came over all the time. There was always food on the table. And that was because my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and my cousins all had those kind of homes. So when we would go from home to home to home, it was like you lived there and you were obviously hungry. So we obviously had to feed you, and you knew everyone, and there was like pinched cheeks and kisses and hugs. So I've always felt safest at home. I always joke that I was an indoor kid. I didn't go outside very much when I was a kid. I love being inside. Everywhere I've lived, I've created my own version of home, which has looked like a version of what you'll see here, or what you see here. So I think because of that, I have a really strong association with being home and being comfortable. And I feel extremely lucky to have had that experience, and I feel even luckier to be able to share that with people in this big audience now and allow them to figure out how to make home work for them, however that means. And I do get photos and videos of people saying, look, Grossi, I arranged my cookbooks like a rainbow, or, you know, I bought some ceramics at the flea market today. I would never have been brave enough to do that, but you encouraged me to like buy something when I see it and not walk by and leave it there. It's just wild. Like, this is sort of I guess this is my fight song, as I like to joke because of that song, but it's just sort of what I love to do. And it just makes me really happy to sort of allow people to feel at home and help them do that, because I love being at home and I love creating homes wherever I am.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.